You're listening to the PAZNIA Radio Network.
Alright, self-liberators, PAZNIans, DJ Brian FreeRobot here for the inaugural broadcast of the PAZNIA Radio Network, coming to you from the Veritas node of the Free Republic of PAZNIA, on what, in the future, will be our sacred Sunday transmissions. At present, you can find the PAZNIA Radio Network on YouTube and Odysee. For easy access, I'd recommend the app Grey J. There you can add either or both channels and let it play in the background as you work, travel, exercise, or whatever. You can also stream or view the upcoming schedule and show notes by visiting paznia.com/radio. Live chats are available on Odysee or YouTube, and donations can be made at paznia.com, but soon, we'll incorporate some chat if you'd like to make a contribution to the second realm. And your support is highly valuable. We're searching for a dedicated Windows laptop to handle these radio station requirements, and additional funds will help us multi-stream to far more locations. So, what sort of content might you hear on the PAZNIA Radio Network? The list includes, but is not limited to, episodes of the Vonu Podcast, classic episodes of Liberty Under Attack Radio, free audiobooks via Liberty Under Attack publications, future PAZNIA Second Realm Assemblies episodes from partners, such as the Bitcoin Bugle Freedom Music blocks, for example, Richard Greaser Hour, Metal Hour, etc. and more. We also envision special broadcast themes, long, multi-hour streams on topics like privacy, education, the occult, history, breakthrough energy, or whatever else. There's lots of options, lots of possibilities, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all. Interested in joining the PAZNIA Radio Network with your own show, live or pre-recorded? Let Coordinator Rayo know by emailing coordinator@paznia.com. Now that the introductory housekeeping notes are out of the way tonight, we'll begin with an introduction to the PAZNIA Network, via the book of P.A.Z.NIA, originally started in 2020, and updated and completed now. This will give you the most concise, best available version of the vision of this parallel network called P.A.Z.NIA. We'll take a quick, yet entertaining ad break with our friends over at the Bitcoin Bugle, and then, you'll hear the debut of the newest episode of the Vonu Podcast, an interview with Stefan Verstappen, here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. And there may even be some other surprises after. Anyway, we greatly appreciate your patience and understanding as we get the PAZNIA Radio Network really up and running. Cheers. DJ Brian FreeRobot out.
PAZNIA, a proposed model for the Second Realm Network. Authored by Coordinator Rayo. Coordinator at PAZNIA.com. Liberty Under Attack Publications. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, An Introduction to PAZNIA. Chapter 2, PAZNIA Compartmentalized. Chapter 3, PAZNIA Services and Marketplaces. Chapter 4, VonuFest and other events at the Free Republic. Chapter 5, The PAZNIA Network. Chapter 6, The Coming Intentional Community. Chapter 7, Get Involved, Join the Second Realm. Chapter 8, In Closing. Chapter 9, Freedom is Yours for the Seizing. In the real world, liberty will be limited for a long time to come to self-liberated individuals and, perhaps, libertarian mini-cultures and free ports. But this is not grounds for pessimism or defeatism. One can forget about the herd and become free, once he exorcises the collectivist spooks from his head. Rayo, Vonu, The Search for Personal Freedom. Chapter 1, An Introduction to PAZNIA. The root cause of humanity's problems, in my estimation, is coercion, herein defined as the removal of free will from an individual by force or threats of force. Many will point at some state institution in particular, i.e. public schooling, but the truth is, what we see manifested today is at least 27 steps of problems down from the root. So, if you're one of those individuals still dangling around the exterior, far away from the trunk, let alone the roots, this book probably isn't for you. At least not right now, and that's okay. We're all on our own individual journeys, and just as each tree in the forest is at a different stage of growth, so are each of us. Therefore, if you find yourself happily consuming the propaganda, media plus TV, excited about participating in the circuses every 2 or 4 years, getting an experimental vaccine for a fake or overblown virus, or even as a vehement crusader for the Libertarian Party, you might consider moving along now. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Put the book away, close the tab, and come back later, when it resonates. But in the meantime, we as Vonumans, free market anarchists, agorists, or whatever other applicable label, are problem solvers, committed to living our principles in the here and now, and the only solution to coercion is voluntarism, free will, peace, cooperation, etc., not merely chopping off or manicuring the branches of the ever-growing tree of coercion. If the foundation, coercion, is unstable and dangerous, then, as any good building contractor will tell you, it's probably time to tear down and start over. But setting the tree of coercion ablaze or grabbing the sledgehammers may not be necessary. Rather, just remove the source of nutrients, fiat money, compliance, and its energy source, humanity, and let nature take its course of breakdown, purification, and regeneration. This book and the vision it contains will require you to drastically expand your perspective of reality and what is possible. If you'll give it a chance, it should be quite clear that what we know as the servile society is truly the modern-day incarnation of Babylon, the land of confusion, and the realm we find ourselves in is far more fascinating and mind-blowing than we have been led to believe. And further, since we already have a vast network of like-minded freedom seekers on the internet and throughout the world, the prospects for building an interconnected second realm network have never been better. This book will contain a thorough explanation of the vision and these concepts, but the idea is to create our own alternative infrastructure, supply chains, economy, culture/entertainment, and more, built upon the principles of freedom, non-aggression and self-ownership. In both the digital and physical. Our strategy for liberty is the creation of a culture of liberty, a society that occupies its own protected space and implements independent systems of cooperation. We need to create a second realm. Won't you join us? 1A, the second realm. I'm not a big fan of reinventing the wheel, so this section will be a brief summary at best, to be extrapolated further in later PAZNIA sections. The book to reference is called Second Realm, Book on Strategy by the pseudonymous Smuggler and XYZ. It's available free online, or you can order a paperback copy from Liberty Under Attack Publications, libertyunderattack.com/srbook. In that concise guide, the authors cover the philosophical background/context, the various components/strategies involved, and some thoughts on how to implement them. And their credibility within this area is unsurpassed. Not only do the Institute of Crypto-Anarchy and Parallelny Polis exist, i.e. Parallel Society, an actual storefront building in downtown Prague, but Smuggler and the Berlin cypherpunk crew have been on the ground, and in the digital realm, building pockets of freedom for self-liberators of all stripes and flavors to enjoy. The incredibly worthwhile crypto-agorist novella, #Agora, probably defines the second realm best. Technically, the second realm is described as encrypted communication, encrypted currencies, anonymous and pseudonymous identities and untraceable action. For those familiar with Samuel Edward Konkin III and his strategy of agorism, one other way to conceptualize the second realm is the expansion of the agora to include all facets of the human experience, rather than just trade/commerce, namely, living, secure Vonu home bases, a liberated culture, our own infrastructure, internal dispute resolution solutions, etc. These second realms are then protected/defended via the utilization of privacy and security culture principles, using pseudonyms, encrypted communications, vetting of individuals, etc. Other fictional examples that you may be familiar with include Aurora from Alongside Night and Cannonier's Farm from #Agora. The free second realm is the answer to the first realm, the realm ruled by coercion and totalitarianism generally. 1b. Vonu, introduced, defined, and expanded. As mentioned above, for as long as mankind can remember, coercion has been used to control, manipulate, and exploit individuals. It is an unfortunate fact of history. The state uses it to keep their hapless citizenry in line, and private criminals use it to violate the autonomy of their subjects for personal gain. So then, what is politics? Politics is the art and science of managing centralized coercion, plain and simple. That being the case, it's no surprise that politics is undoubtedly a counterintuitive way to decrease the amount of coercion in your life. Would you drink a fifth of Jack Daniels to cure your alcoholism? Engage a couple more prostitutes to assist you in overcoming your sex addiction? What about making a few more trips to Vegas as the means for eradicating that dreaded gambling vice? As ridiculous as those may sound, using politics to alleviate coercion is a far more dangerous utilization of this failed logic. It has more far-reaching, unintended, and intended consequences. People's livelihoods have been and can be destroyed by so-called public policy, the state being the apparatus it is. Mass murder, i.e. democide, the most deadly form of coercion, is always on the table. Thus, the problem that freedom pioneers face is coercion. Back in the 1960s, a man named Tom Marshall, Rio, resided in Southern California, then a bustling libertarian community. He was a tech Y engineer, a socially awkward fellow, a marijuana smoker, not much of a philosopher, but a freedom-seeking libertarian nonetheless. Early on, he spent some time at the Nathaniel Branden Institute, a school teaching the objectivist philosophy laid out by Ayn Rand, well, at its core, first by Aristotle, until his first major venture came about, the Free Isles Project. The Free Isles Project spawned out of the Preform and Form zine. The goal was to conduct research on the efficacy of setting up a new libertarian nation and the seemingly endless possibilities for freedom if it were to come into fruition. Rio said, "The Free Isle resident would, hypothetically, have all of the advantages of participating in world commerce while being free from taxes and regulations. Furthermore, a free isle, if it were successful, could be a very effective demonstration of the merits of laissez-faire capitalism. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it was never successful. Hell, it never got past the talking stage. Eventually, the movement subsided after disagreements arose regarding the size and scope of government, the lack of individuals willing to become involved, and the potential ramifications from existing nation-states. As an aside, the latter two are still big problems for libertarian country-building projects today. Thankfully, most of the newer projects are more anarchistic, but the facilitators are often terrible strategists and tacticians. Generally, they fail to learn from history. Rio, frustrated with the all-talk, no-action libertarians of his day, said screw it, and moved out of his apartment into a camper mounted on his pickup truck. He became a van nomad and began laying the foundation for the most interesting, plausible freedom strategy today. Naturally though, freedom means many different things to different people. Freedom to a propertarian anarchist means private property, personal autonomy, and peace. Freedom to a leftist means free healthcare, free college, and a massive welfare state. Freedom to a conservative means Christianity, the mass murder known as war, and social insecurity. Language is quite fluid, which is why Rio and Roberta, his free mate, proposed a new term, Vonu. Vonu is an awkward contraction of the words voluntary not vulnerable and, simply defined, is the condition or quality of, as well as the action of achieving, an invulnerability to coercion. So, with one definition, Vonuans avoid the issue of subjective interpretation altogether. You know coercion and violence when you see it. If you make radical lifestyle changes in an attempt to avoid those things, you are a Vonuan, as you are taking steps to become more invulnerable to coercion, regardless of whether the perceived threat is corporations, the state, or a crime-ridden hellhole. But early Vonuans also had interesting ways of interpreting liberty and freedom. Liberty, as defined by Funk and Wagnall's Standard College Dictionary 1968, the reference Rio used in his book, is a measure of freedom within restraints, granted by or through a sovereign power. Freedom, as defined by the aforementioned source, is the widest term, suggesting complete absence of restraint. So, Vonuans say that liberty is the general exemption from coercion and freedom is an absence of coercion. To gain liberty, one utilizes legal interstices, or, as it is more vernacularly known, legal loopholes within the law. And you know what the state does to those, right? If they can, they close them. Damn those gun show loopholes and ghost gunners. Ryo specifically had an interesting take on legal interstices. One of his complaints about van nomadism was that it required reliance on slave tags, i.e. driver's licensure, registration, mandatory insurance. So, in order to hopefully avoid the coercion of the bludgies, you have a license plate on your car, you hand the bludgie your driver's license, and you keep your tags up to date. It's providing a safeguard of sorts, but the terms and conditions may change if they smell marijuana or if the bludgie in question just wanted to beat you for breathing the wrong way. Ryo also had a quite negative stance on utopian fantasies like Ancapistan, a free world, or a communist paradise. Therefore, freedom, the absence of coercion, is a utopian pipe dream. Even if the state disappears, there will still be psychopaths, violent murderers, and thieves, hence, there will always be coercion. He pursued the van nomad lifestyle for quite a while and realized that it wasn't enough for him. He disliked the aforementioned slave tags because if you have to ask, and pay off, the state for permission, are you really free? For that reason, Ryo decided that the wilderness Vonu life would offer him the most personal satisfaction and he and Roberta moved into a polyethylene tent, deep in the Siskiyou National Forest. He continued to publish a few Vonu publications, Preform and Form, Innovator, Vonu Life, and wrote for others, such as Libertarian Connection, the Eleutherian Forum, and Going Mobile, nestled up in his foam hut, under his makeshift tent. His frustration with libertarians and the community at large increased and all he saw around him were controlled schizophrenic, political crusaders. He once longed for Vonu associations, i.e. van nomad mobile communities, agoras, but his inclination to work with others waned like a recent full moon. As I receive more Vonu publications from his time, I hope to find out what truly happened. At this time, all I have is suspicion. He began to pursue troglodyte living and practiced building underground structures, when he mysteriously ceased communication and disappeared. All that remains is a portion of a letter he wrote to his correspondent, I think John Fisher, the editor of his first book, dated February 14, 1974. My thinking has undergone major changes in the last several months on interfacing, alternate economics, interrelations in general. I, too, am becoming very dubious as to the value of all Libertarian Club involvements. We do not intend to use the Libertarian Club in the future as an avenue for gaining non-anonymous friends or associates. But the strategy he and other freedom seekers pioneered is still just as efficacious as it was before, and even more so thanks to advancements in technology. So, how does Vonu differ from direct action more generally, such as the methods listed on the freedom umbrella of direct action, FUTA? Well, with many of the strategies on the FUTA, you can more or less continue living the same lifestyle you did before, i.e. a 9-to-5 job in the servile society, paying some taxes, etc., and receive some increases in your personal freedom, but with the go-along-to-get-along path being decimated, the piecemeal direct action may not be an option anymore. Vonu, on the other hand, is a lifestyle change. It is a reorganization of your entire life, but the increase in personal freedom is quite substantial, and that's putting it mildly. Examples of these Vonu lifestyles include van nomadism and wilderness Vonu, both strategies Ryo and Roberta utilized, minimalist sailboating, intentional communities, mobile or stationary, Vonuing in cities, perpetual traveling, and utilizing ethical enclaves. In the newest iteration, PAZNIA and the overarching Second Realm Network, i.e., the building of semi-permanent autonomous zones, a parallel network. It's worth noting, back in the 1960s, such an idea may not have been Vonu, but, due to changing circumstances, such as the further centralization of basic necessities, i.e. energy dependence, supply chain dependence, empty grocery stores, etc., a little additional risk and exposure is necessary, the overall network relying on the notion of decentralization as a main source of defense. That is, if one must risk their life and soul to participate in the first realm, drastic actions need to be taken now to ensure our survival in a free network built upon the principles of peace, voluntarism, and truth for future generations to come. 1c. The Model Country. Back in the mid-20th century, libertarian New Country pioneer, Erwin S. Strauss, who is still around, and who still runs the Libertarian Connection, wrote about the idea of a model country in his book, How to Start Your Own Country. Therein, he posits, many find it a rewarding hobby to run a model railroad, or operate model airplanes. These model enterprises have all the trappings of the real thing, in miniature. Similarly, it's possible to run a model country. You need only declare your home to be an independent nation, and proceed from there. From that point, you can have a more or less approach to challenging the established governments for recognition. This ranges from stopping the payment of property taxes and undergoing extensive litigation, time and money in court, on the radical end, to the PAZNIA end. Not only are we not seeking recognition by the United Nations or anyone else, we don't want them to know we exist. The Free Republic of PAZNIA is the newest iteration of this concept, our mission of truly founding the first free country. The flagship is Veritas, but other nodes in the PAZNIA network will serve as cities, but scattered all over the world. More importantly, considering the coercive nature of our world, this decentralized, security culture-minded approach, and the already rather large digital community of freedom seekers, all but guarantee the success of the network so long as resources, time, and concentration are given to it. In other words, as long as we continue to utilize our generative force of creation to build the second realm. 1d. Comedy and culture jamming, the PAZNIA way. Sometimes, when an idea, ideology, belief, etc. is so stupid or dangerous, the best way to respond might not be with logic, reason, and rationality. No, sometimes, the best way to respond is to laugh at and make fun of it, relentlessly. And the craft of a good culture jammer is that the statist/coercer or coercive society you're making fun of doesn't even know that they are the ass of the joke. They might even share it on social media, thinking they're dunking on one of their ideological adversaries. Secondarily, being angry and pissed off at the servile society all the time is no fun. But having fun is. Laughing is. So as we're building PAZNIA, this parallel network, we're going to have fun. And make fun of the first realm, we shall. First off, culture jamming can be defined as a method of disruption or subversion using similar rhetoric and language to that of the mainstream, servile society. One general example is Simon Jester, from Heinlein's The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. In the book, instead of characters risking their own lives and reputations for speaking out, Simon, that little devil, would do it for them, as they littered streets, bulletin boards, and signs with such media. PAZNIA employs this tactic in numerous ways. We issue our own licenses and permits, we issue our own passports. PAZNIA audio-video advertisements are the best, and General Willey and his compatriots were victorious in the legendary Great Battle of PAZNIA, to name a few. Some of our departments, like the PAZNIA Department of Transportation and the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund, have government documents in similar legalese and style, see below. Comedy is also a highly effective way to reach folks, much more than through hardcore logic and rationality. This medium is more disarming to the subconscious programming, allowing a different form of rhetoric to handle the bulk of the work. It's also worth noting that culture jamming likely provides a bit of defense in terms of security culture. Visiting the surface level of the PAZNIA website, an individual or real government might see it as ridiculous if they don't plunge deeper. Furthermore, if an overpaid, bored bureaucrat stumbles across our wellness center, they'll be very challenged to throw the cuffs or fines at the dog for practicing without a license. Hell, again, the apparent ridiculousness would probably, hopefully send them moving along to a different website. In summation, please do consider visiting PAZNIA.com and take a look around. You just might get a bit of a chuckle. Secondarily, visit VonuPodcast.com and search for PAZNIA to find more. 1e. PAZNIA accomplishments and future goals. Accomplishments. The first stage of the PAZNIA vision began back in year 0, 2020, when the homestead here at Veritas first began towards self-sufficiency with lambs and goats. or arrived in 2021 and began rapid development on the gardens. Now, we have a few different zones and are honing in on what is most optimal to grow in this area. The flock of ruminants is ever growing. The next big goal is to finish our forever fencing and get the big shed set up to milk and process. High-quality lamb and goat are getting close to becoming a profitable venture. In 2023, we took the homestead corn and soy free. Now, any grains the ruminants or chickens/turkeys get are organic wheat, rye, oats, or malted barley. Local communication options are being explored, with a working option now, a simplex relay, see below. The private PAZNIA map and directory and P.A.Z.NIA list were launched in January of 2024, see below. Late 2024 brought the arrival of the Ghost Station, the expandable tower server hosting a simplex relay, Bitcoin/Monero nodes, the local PAZNIA LBRY, and more. Future goals, short term. Begin work on the public PAZNIA directory to expand the growth and options available to the PAZNIA network. Begin hosting semi-regular meetings on Jitsi for any interested self-liberators. Continue adding high-value health and wellness tools/modalities to the wellness center. Things like a wood-burning, red light sauna and a working rife machine. Mid to long term. When PAZNIA funds grow substantially, a dedicated laboratory with some basic equipment for research and development, i.e., mass spectrometer, lab-grade vacuum ovens, and other useful items for the curious-minded. Continue working towards the coming intentional community here at Veritas, and more opportunities in physical space and time in general. There's certainly some missing and some that are classified. These are presented as proof of work and to paint a picture of what's to come. 1F. The PAZNIA Constitution/Declaration of Independence. At critical times throughout human history, it becomes necessary for one people, self-liberators, freedom seekers, etc., to officially dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. For we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and property over one's body, and the fruits of one's labor. That to secure these rights, humans have foolishly instituted governments, resulting in the democide and enslavement of the many by the few. This is, of course, our present situation. But after a long train of abuses and usurpations, with the intention of reducing all individuals on the planet to lives under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, or otherwise violators of person and property, and to provide new guards for their future security. And in terms of government, prudence, indeed, will dictate that these monopolies on violence are too dangerous to exist, that the belief in such authority on a societal level leads to the disconnecting of individuals from all things human, most importantly human freedom. Because some fates are worse than death, slavery. We, therefore, as founding signatories of the Free Republic of PAZNIA, declare that we are absolved from all allegiance to the communist, fascist United States government, and that all political connection between the two is completely and totally dissolved. The founding principles of PAZNIA are as follows: our Constitution. A respect for and commitment to privacy, the use of pseudonyms is encouraged. Don't hurt people and honor your contracts. A culture that encourages humanity to flourish, rather than degrade and regress. A recognition of the important task ahead of us, to ensure the continuation of freedom into the future, another way for those seeking a way out. 1G. PAZNIA FAQs. 1. What does the name mean? Paz in Spanish means peace, which is the fundamental life principle of PAZNIA. It is also the abbreviation for the freedom strategy of building permanent autonomous zones. 2. What's the difference between PAZNIA and freedom cells? Freedom cells are an organizational model, wherein a small group of individuals, 10, meets/coordinates for whatever purposes they agree upon, i.e. survivalism chats, workshops, firearms training, building an intentional community, etc. These freedom cells together form a network of sorts, but a less organized and comprehensive vision than that of PAZNIA. Further, integration with other freedom cells is wholly optional, whereas individuals/homesteads that join the PAZNIA network will do so with the purpose of being a part of it, whether as a node for fellow self-liberators or as, say, a partner in the seed exchange. 3. What is security culture? Security culture is the direct application of the right to privacy. 4. Why do you encourage the use of pseudonyms? The servile society/first realm is becoming more and more unsafe for self-liberators/free thinkers. A pseudonym provides you with the ability to maintain additional privacy/anonymity while still building up a reputation of sorts, separate from your chosen/give names. 5. What are the requirements for visiting/becoming a PAZNIAN? All visitors must be vetted according to internal procedures of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom. Anyone can become an honorary SDA holder, but founding SDA holders must be vetted/approved. We appreciate support from anyone, anywhere, but have to do things this way to ensure these second realms are maintained. 6. Do the passports look authentic? Will they work for international travel? The passports look strikingly legitimate and have been used to purchase age-restricted items in the USSA from a gas station. That said, they are for culture jamming purposes. No further uses are intended, though appreciated. Let us know. 7. What is the current situation at Veritas, PAZNIA? As of the time of writing, spring, year 5 2025, the homestead here at Veritas is expanding. Aura maintains a few different gardens, and I tend to the chickens and turkeys, and our ever-growing flock of sheep and goats. We built a pond on the property end of year 3, 2023, and it is now essentially filled, awaiting some bass and bluegill for a stock of fish, another resource. Electrohorticulture experimentation is going swell, and we now have an ormus/monoatomic harvesting setup. Events at Veritas continue throughout the year, this year being VanuFest 6, the 6th annual, premier gathering of liberation in the second realm. Finally, the intentional community on the property is finally coming into view. Lots more to come. 8. What is the overall/long-term goal/plan for PAZNIA? For the entire PAZNIA network, the continued development of the PAZNIA map and directory as an incredible resource for living exclusively in our parallel network, the further building out of technology, i.e. local mesh networks, local communications, and sovereign infrastructure in all areas of need and desire. For Veritas specifically, an intentional community on the property with the appropriate number of families/individuals, as well as the overarching integration into the second realm/PAZNIA network. 9. What is the significance of the Veritas part of the above question? Veritas is the first free second realm, outpost/city, in the first free country, PAZNIA. 10. How do I build a PAZNIA of my own? Declare your independence from whatever authoritarian jurisdiction you find yourself in and start building an autonomous zone upon a foundation of peace and voluntarism. Beyond that, get creative and think big. No, bigger. The only limitations in this realm are your imagination. Please feel free to use Veritas or other nodes for inspiration. Advanced technology makes Vonu attractive. Contemporary weaponry and coercive institutions make Vonu imperative. In earlier times, government provided order if not freedom and defense if not peace. But now, when nuclear and bacteriological weapons can be rocketed or smuggled to any city on Earth, governments are as obsolete as moats and parapets. The contemporary state is not only incapable of protecting its citizens from outside aggressors, it has become the biggest aggressor with its endless taxes, conscriptions, and interferences. The state provides justice by mass terror, freedom by mass servitude, and defense by mass murder. Rio, Vonu Life, March 1973. Chapter 2, PAZNIA Compartmentalized. 2a, the PAZNIA Department of Freedom. Established in Article 333,555,777, Section 33 of the PAZNIA Constitution, the team's role is to contribute to the building and maintenance of this free republic here at Veritas. The coordinator shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Defensive Powers of Naomi Defense LLC, and of Willie II, the Goat Tank. In exercise of his, or her, duties, the aforementioned coordinator may require the expert opinion, insight, or otherwise hire advice of principled ambassadors and liaisons within the self-liberator's paradise. The coordinator, in concert with the ambassador of the Department of Freedom, has the power to grant or rescind PAZNIA diplomatic passports, immunity passports, and any other official department of no state documentation that may be necessary in the future. Finally, provision shall be made for the future construction of the Great Wall of PAZNIA and other measures, incumbent upon approval by the local Committee of Safety. The PAZNIA Department of Freedom, DOF, sits at the top of this fake, wholly invented hierarchy of departments at Veritas, founded and maintained by the PAZNIA/Second Realm Coordinator, yet another fake, made-up title, as well as the ambassador to the DOF. These individuals, in addition to the No State Department, are responsible for coming up with proper vetting procedures, the issuance and creation of various forms of PAZNIA identification, such as passports, IDs, etc., and are even tasked with the role of calendar management, vis-a-vis the Office of Calendar Management. We are currently in the process of selecting a new way of keeping time outside of the nonsensical Gregorian standard, whereby mankind is intentionally torn out of balance with nature, its cycles, and the sky clock above. Other roles are envisioned in the future, but these are the main ones at the time of publication. 2b. The PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence. The PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence is the official chat of the Free Republic. The first, public layer is currently on Telegram, and the second, is on Simplex. As part of the forthcoming PAZNIA LBRY, for a full explanation, see below, it will eventually be self-hosted and include a variety of other features, including sub-chat groups by particular geography to help facilitate local trade. I envision it being incorporated into the PAZNIA Department of Transportation, our coming decentralized shipping/logistics network, as well. But, at current, the PAZNIA COC serves as the initial method of outreach and a way for new, interested individuals to learn more about what we're building, how they can get involved, and for pertinent announcements, in addition to serving as a general chat room for developing liberated lifestyles. 2c. The PAZNIA Department of Permaculture. Unlike the monocropping, nutrient-depleting, and nature-fighting method of modern, conventional agriculture, here at PAZNIA, we wish to work in accordance with nature, incorporating permaculture principles, biodynamic farming methods of Rudolf Steiner, electrohorticulture, and a synergistic use of the animal/plant kingdoms, among other items, to regenerate and build up the land. We are constantly looking for new ways to assist us in these goals, such as using basalt rock dust and monoatomics to improve the energetics, pH, of the soil, incorporating microorganisms to clean up and replenish the surely depleted populations, orgone devices to draw in more of that chi, life force energy, prana, or whatever other word you'd like to use, speeding up plant growth with hydrogen-rich water, adding back fulvic/humic acid-rich soil. And, of course, just using the seemingly endless, good OL animal shit for fertilizer. The end result is happy animals raised according to their species-specific diets, roaming around the beautiful pastures of our nature sanctuary, and nutrient-rich gardens, all providing the highest quality nutrition to restore and maintain the health of all those who visit or stay here. 2d. The PAZNIA Department of Transportation. Title 33, Transportation Chapter 1, Department of Transportation. Subchapter A, Carriage by PAZNIA Highway. By the authority vested in absolutely no one, the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is heretofore created. On this date of April 20th, 2021, the first order of business is to ban the use of, transportation on, and construction of all paved roadways in the Free Republic, except for the exceptions listed in subchapter B, below. Roads are an ancient relic of the First Realm, and such backwards thinking will not be promoted or enabled in this pocket of freedom. Enforcement of subchapter A will be carried out by Naomi Defense LLC, always be digging TM, for the lump sum of 16 ounces of muscle meat a day, accompanied by at least one other organ and a raw, free-range egg, or equivalent value of 8,300 satoshis, per day of contract fulfillment. B. At the request of the PAZNIA Secret Space Program, an appropriately sized piece of land will be excluded for the construction of a helipad and runway, as a special service to PAZNIA and executive stakeholders. Subchapter B, Definitions. B. For the purposes of this directive, the following definitions shall apply. A. The term PAZNIA Department of Transportation refers to the subdepartment of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom responsible for the movement of goods and PAZNIANs from place to place and the various means by which such movement is accomplished. Subchapter C. Proposal and Purpose. C. Considering many Vonuans/PAZNIANs are nomadic, and since reliance upon centralized logistical services is silly, the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is heretofore created, as per subchapter A, above. The vision is for this to become the second realm delivery/logistical service, to replace the coercively funded variety, as well as similar, regulated white market services. The main task of the PAZNIA DOT, and of the like-created Telegram chat/group * is to coordinate, transport, and deliver privately agreed upon goods or material. The like-created Telegram chat/group has an additional responsibility of designing and structuring the framework of the PAZNIA DOT. Note, the aforementioned group is private and for vetted individuals only. Potential ideas include an anonymous/pseudonymous, i.e. privacy-centric, delivery job board to be hosted on the coming PAZNIA LBRY Freedom Box, seed and supply transport between homesteads, R&D on advanced transportation services/transportation methods, etc. Note, this is not an exhaustive list, just a few ideas to get the thinking going. Subchapter D, PAZNIA Department of Transportation Budget. D. In accordance with the Department of Freedom's Accounting Office, the Secretary of No State shall submit the appropriate documentation to the Strategic Director for the PAZNIA DOT to be included in the Coordinator's fiscal year 2021 budget request. Conclusion: join the network, get involved in the network or the planning for the PAZNIA Department of Transportation, join the PAZNIA Committee of Correspondence Telegram chat and start building your reputation in the second realm today. Alternatively, if you're already vetted, reach out, you know how to get in touch, and we'll get you added. Further planning will also ensue in person at events hosted here at the Free Republic. 2E. The PAZNIA Department of Education. Our mission: provide the knowledge and tools to learn anything, using the trivium and quadrivium as foundations, with the goal of empowering future generations with the resources necessary to thrive in the first or the second realm. The PAZNIA Department of Education was foisted into existence, thanks to the initiative of HBO star, Jason Henza, the anarchists. The objective is to come up with a curriculum, or curricula, for the PAZNIA network and begin to accumulate as many homeschooling/unschooling resources as we can. Planning and discussion has taken place in the Telegram Committee of Correspondence, and a CryptPad document is located at paznia.com/education for those looking to contribute ideas. Further, I added some 50+ GB of homeschooling resources to the local PAZNIA LBRY, see below. The DOE is definitely in its infancy, but progress has begun. Roadmap and goals, crowdsource ideas, resources, and more on the aforementioned CryptPad document, to create a comprehensive curriculum on self-liberation, incorporating the trivium and the quadrivium, teaching current and future generations how to learn anything, expose anyone interested, children, adults pursuing lifetime learning, etc., to a wide array of perspectives not found in first-realm schooling: real history, real science, real finance/economics, Vonu/self-liberation strategy and tactics, etc. When V1 of the PAZNIA homeschooling/unschooling curriculum is finalized, create digital modules, resources, etc. to be utilized and beta tested. We are still seeking the director/head of our Department of Education an opportunity to take on the critically important task at hand. Email coordinator@paznia.com if this is of interest. 2F. The PAZNIA Secret Space Program. A document by the coordinator of PAZNIA in association with the local Committee of Safety on September 26, 2020. PAZNIA Space Directive 3 of September 26, 2020. Section 1. Introduction. Following the establishment of the PAZNIA Secret Seasteading Program, the next logical step is to set our eyes and intentions to the stars. The ancients didn't intricately study and construct their societies/worlds to be in alignment with the heavens for no reason. The sky clock is an immutable ledger of humanity's past here on Earth, and everything is integrated, meaning the energies of the planets and universe can be harnessed and even exalted. We live in an electrical universe of abundance, and the main task of the P.A.Z.NIA SSP is to enable Veritas and the overarching second realm to thrive in accordance with these truths. Section 2. Definitions. For the purposes of this directive, the following definitions shall apply. The term PAZNIA Secret Space Program refers to the subdepartment of the PAZNIA Department of Freedom, the program tasked with the challenges laid out in Section 3 below. B. The term PAZNIA Secret Space Program refers to a PAZNIA department led by the lead astronaut, the strategic director of the Office of Calendar Management, and the Galactic Ambassador. Section 3. Proposal and Purpose. As enacted, the PAZNIA Secret Space Program, A, would facilitate the construction of a HQ and acquisition of a 3D printer plus associated tools, printer plastic, etc. This will permit the launch of a workshop/factory, and our prime goal of the 3D prototyping of wheelchairs for chickens with broken legs. If we have the tools to do it, it's our duty. No chicken left behind. Engineering assistance may need to be contracted. B. The training and initiation of fellow astronauts into the SSP, in accordance with existing PAZNIA code. C. The investigation into breakthrough/alternative energy devices harnessing the electrical and magnetic nature of our universe, and the planning for the equitable distribution across the agora. D. Head of Bird Security, Naomi Defense LLC, is permitted 16 ounces of raw meat per space adventure. Section 4. PAZNIA Secret Space Program Budget. In accordance with the Department of Freedom's Accounting Office, the Secretary of No State shall submit to the Strategic Director of the Office of Calendar Management for the PAZNIA Space Force to be included in the Coordinator's fiscal year 2021 budget request. Further explained, the greatest discovery and the greatest cover-up of the 20th century was indeed zero-point energy. This discovery was made by major U.S. aerospace companies in the 1950s, and discovered by the Nazis/Third Reich in Germany around the time of the Second World War. This project was called Die Glock, or the bell, named after the shape of the device. This discovery allows for essentially unlimited free energy, but it has been hidden away behind the trade secrets protections of major corporations. Obviously, for control, but also due to the fact that, much like with nuclear energy, you get nuclear weapons. Likewise, when you acquire zero-point energy, you get a weapon wherein a coffee cup's worth is enough to evaporate all the oceans on Earth. Obviously, if the servile society can't overcome the more basic and less destructive elements of coercion, like fraud, theft, etc., these non-player characters cannot be trusted with technologies such as these. So, whether it's ZPE or something like Sky Huddleston's upscaled and more powerful Burke engine, wherein a parking lot of these things could afford a small community a small nuclear power plant's worth of power, it would be wise to use the PAZNIA network as a much safer way to roll out this technology as it becomes available. This would also give us some much-needed and much-deserved advantages over the coercive first realm. Think off-grid Bitcoin/Monero mining, easy/cheap energy, enabling off-grid living in isolated, low-coercion areas like Alaska, or just good OL entrepreneurial opportunities. The PAZNIA SSP will also be doing R&D into other possibilities, such as a Brown's gas-powered Lord's pump and crystal power cells, to name a couple. 2G. The PAZNIA Department of Technology. Technology is moving forward at an ever-increasing speed. Babylon will continue to build out its infrastructure of surveillance and control, but as a disparate network, we can and need to use these tools for defense, for liberation, and for independence. This is the goal of the PAZNIA Department of Technology. Communications, Simplex is the current, working solutions, that is, a self-hosted simplex relay at Veritas, accessible to anyone, adding one extra layer of uncensorability. On a local level, a self-liberator could create a new identity, and only connect to our local relay, and we'd have a local communications network across the homestead. For local applications, and even potential larger reach mesh networks, R&D has begun into LoRa/Meshtastic sort of systems. These low-power devices, powered by solar, could enable a lot in the range of our own communications network, outside of internet, cellular, etc. Hugely powerful, and even beyond PAZNIA, this is a major area of focus for folks interested in freedom. Finance. Living in a highly digital world, as well as being a dispersed network, we have to have privacy-friendly options to transact value. On the Ghost server here at Veritas, via virtual machines running StartOS, Bitcoin and Monero full nodes are running, as well as a Bitcoin Lightning node. At the time this book goes to press, those are not ready for action, but at the very least, we're contributing to the networks. The idea is this: instead of connecting to a random Bitcoin node that's potentially operated by chain analysis, the enemies of privacy connect to PAZNIA nodes directly. Education/entertainment. The local PAZNIA LBRY is live and ready for self-liberators visiting Veritas. Currently, there are documentaries, books, homeschooling/unschooling resources, terabytes of movies and TV shows, music, podcasts, and more. This same LBRY vision will be accessible publicly at some point in the future, likely via PeerTube first, essentially, combining YouTube with torrents, and/or IPFS. More on the LBRY below. Artificial intelligence, so-called artificial intelligence, is here, whether we like it or not. And it's not going away. So, instead of being left behind, or maybe worse, left to the privacy-hating AI tools of Babylon, we have begun looking into self-hosted AI. At a base level, this technology has major time-saving capabilities, from text to speech, or vice versa, organizing bullet point notes into coherent creations, AI-generated art, etc. There are other highly interesting possibilities, such as a Ryo GPT, inputting every single article, book, publications, letter, etc. into AI, and having the ghost of Ryo there to ask questions to. Finally, a moment should be spent on our PAZNIA Second Realm assemblies, most of which have been meetings of our Department of Technology. From highly dense discussions between experts like Brian Sovereign, Dave from Start9, Shamin Biconic, and more, we go extremely deep into exploring the sea of vast solutions ahead of us. If you're interested in checking these out, just visit vonupodcast.com and search for Department of Technology at the top of the page. 2H, the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund. A huge thanks is owed to Josiah Warren, a fellow PAZNIan, who came up with and initially funded the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund for voluntary mutual aid. The following are images of the document he wrote, laying out the details of the fund. PAZNIA General Fund, official founding document. Section I, Purpose/Description. The PAZNIA General Fund is established for any citizen of PAZNIA for the purposes of furthering an individual's goals or toward that individual's utilizing the fund in order to further the cause of liberation and self-liberation for others. Section 2, Creation of the Fund. The PAZNIA General Fund, the fund, will be set up on a private, newly created Bitcoin, BTC, address and will be funded with the initial sum equivalent to $1,000, 1,000 USSA dollars at the time of funding. Section 3, Requirements to utilize said fund. The fund shall be established and shall be in effect until the balance of the fund reaches 0.00 or near 0.00 BTC, upon which time the fund will close after a period of no less than 45 days. B. An inquirer who wishes to seek invasion of the fund must be a citizen and/or contributor to PAZNIA and must present proof of citizenship, e.g. PAZNIA passport, PAZNIA flag, PAZNIA coin. C. Some examples of a valid and reasonable request from the fund are, but not limited to, furthering the cause of Vonu and self-liberation. An individual, I, wishes to utilize the fund in order to plant a garden on his/her land. 2. Needs to temporarily fund a food supply. 3. Any equipment needed to construct mesh networks or further the cause of Crypto-Anarchy. 4. Is destitute and needs money from the fund or without it risks rejoining the servile society. V. Needs to cover upfront costs of publishing a liberty-oriented book or pamphlet through Liberty Under Attack Publications, LUA Pub. 6. Wants to use the funds for black or gray market activities. 7. needs to protect him/herself and his/her family by utilizing the fund to purchase protection. 8. Is using the fund to culture jam first realm culture and/or create new culture throughout the PAZNIA and PAZ. 9. A PAZNIAN citizen and/or a family member of a PAZNIAN citizen is captured and needs funds for release and/or legal defense. Section 4. Inquiries for invasion of the fund. All inquiries will be considered on a first-hand basis and must be in writing and encrypted. Use of pseudonyms are encouraged. The creator of the fund reserves all rights to the fund and has the right to decline funding for any reason. Inquiries can be submitted to josiah.warren@protonmail.com and will be answered as soon as possible. The inquiry must contain I. The individual's pseudonym, 2. A brief description of need for the funds, 3. The exact amount needed, 4. If items are being purchased, a manifest and/or invoice, v. A valid and confirmed Bitcoin, BTC, address not originating from an exchange or Coinbase. Section V. Prohibited uses of the fund, abuse of said fund. The fund shall not be used to fund any state activities including but not limited to I. Payment of taxes, 2. Purchase of materials that support law enforcement, military, or any welfare warfare schemes cooked up by state actors, 3. Funding political crusades in any way either indirectly or directly, 4. Pro-civil society first realm propaganda, v. Creation of a culture of dependence on any individual. This is not a welfare program or a crutch. Any funds received from the fund are considered a gift. Any citizen abuse of the fund will be dealt with in a respectful manner and in accordance with the PAZNIAN Constitution and within the non-aggression principle, NAP. Any abuse or use of funds that may be considered to be prohibited or unreasonable or not adhering to values of PAZNIA and Vonu will be required to pay back the fund with a 20% penalty. Section 6. Donations to the fund. Any citizen can make a donation to the fund by inquiring to the fund's creator at josiah.warren@protonmail.com. Any funds given will be irreversible once they are given. Such funds will become part of the fund and utilized in a responsible manner in accordance with fund principles outlined above. The fund will be created/funded on or around the month of February 2021. Signed, Josiah Warren. And for many, the general fund has been of crucial necessity. Donations have been made to political prisoner funds, such as SW and TDEV of Samurai Wallet. Vonu Podcast co-host, Kyle Reardon, called on the fund and the generosity of self-liberators to help him through a terribly tough situation, and funds have been contributed to a PAZNIA in the eastern USSA to help develop a food self-sufficiency project on their homestead, to name a few. Please do consider making a donation to the fund, or if you're a self-liberator needing some assistance, do reach out. 2. The PAZNIA Monero Department. With the arrest and indictment of the developers of Samurai Wallet, the only real project in Bitcoin privacy, the future of Bitcoin doesn't look great, at least in terms of routing around the first realm. Additionally, Bitcoin is being more and more ingrained within that society, with the majority of freedom-minded Bitcoiners abandoning principles, and the vision of Bitcoin only caring about price. For that reason, we launched the PAZNIA Monero Department, essentially a clone of the Bitcoin General Fund, to begin focus on infrastructure here too. Rather than pursuing Bitcoin mining, efforts will likely be shifted towards mining on the XMR network. The guidelines and stipulations are the same as for the general fund. For more information or to donate, visit PAZNIA.com/Monero or use the QR code below. 2J. The PAZNIA Department of Health and Wellness. Almost regardless of where one finds themselves in the world at this moment in time, the biggest coercer is indeed Babylon Pharmaceuticals. And despite what the pharma quacks might say or want you to perceive, allopathic medicine is a rather new phenomenon in the grand scheme of humanity. Even if a self-liberator, for some reason, desired a Babylon pharmaceutical poison, the barriers to dash care will likely continue to get more coercive in the future if the price for entry isn't already too high. As an example, experimental gene therapy with long-standing consequences could be a required precursor to a basic doctor's visit. But let's get back to fundamentals here. If any individual in question would simply, 1. Stop chronically poisoning themselves with toxic food, water, propaganda, etc., and 2. Fix nutritional deficiencies, the vast majority of so-called disease would disappear, in my humble opinion and with much supporting evidence. And while the above two things really are the best prevention and methods to restore balance in the body, Babylon Pharmaceuticals has done a number to many, including myself, with the severe overprescription of antibiotics and injectable poisons, and just pharma treatments more generally. Sometimes, additional modalities and methodologies are necessary to restore said balance, such as red light therapy, the AquaCure Brown's gas/molecular hydrogen electrolyzer, ozone therapy machines/generators, electrical/magnetic healing devices, youth hormones, DHEA, pregnenolone, and progesterone, thyroid hormone, T3/T4, and in general, the realm of bioenergetics inspired by the late, great Dr. Ray Peat. One function I foresee of PAZNIA is that it's a health cooperative of sorts, wherein SDA holders will have access to the above, as we are able to obtain them. Much like the bulk seed purchasing, Veritas, and other nodes, could buy and store large quantities of critically important remedies like DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, shilajit, fulvic and humic acid, nutritional/vitamin supplements, vitamin C, D3, K2, zinc/copper, etc. This private membership setup, not serving the general public, would also provide another layer of protection from the coercers. Further, we also envision healing retreats, both with and without the use of entheogens. These could include group meditations, utilizing the scientifically verifiable tool of focused intention, to heal certain diseases/imbalances, entheogen-specific expeditions with our spiritual liaison, aura, and possibilities unforeseeable at this present time. Lastly, it's worth noting that Aura's apothecary is already open and helping many here at the Free Republic of PAZNIA. You can check out her products by visiting libertyunderattack.com/aura, if you like. Some of her products include comfrey, grown at Veritas, jewelweed, and black drawing salves, as well as her extremely popular, all-natural insect/mosquito repellent. Notable features at the PAZNIA Department of Wellness at Veritas: high-quality animal nutrition, corn and soy-free fed lambs, goats, chickens, and turkeys. Lowest PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid content, as currently possible. Red light therapy, artificial blue light rampant in technology and lighting is disrupting our circadian rhythm. Red light therapy is a cheap, easy, and also, quite miraculous therapy. Aura's apothecary, Aura's handcrafted creations, some formulations made with medicines grown here at Veritas. Medicinal mushroom foraging, certain mushrooms, whether medicinal, i.e. tea, spiritual, or culinary, have some amazing properties. Rife frequency healing, as bioelectric beings, frequency can serve to put us in a state of imbalance, or once of balance. This is a focus on the latter. Dr. Ray Peat focused philosophy in a world of hypothyroid-induced chronic fatigue, aka low metabolism, focusing on youth hormones, i.e. pregnenolone, progesterone, thyroid hormone, T3/T4, aspirin, and many other aspects already mentioned above. Other focuses include Rosicrucian spiritual sciences, homeopathics, and the use of dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO, as a carrier into cells and all-around miraculous healer.
You're listening to the PAZNIA Radio Network.
2K, the PAZNIA Church of Self-Liberation, our nature sanctuary. A hypothesis I'm currently throwing around my head is that the more one becomes disconnected from nature, source, creator, etc., the worse state of health they will find themselves in. Taking into account Dr. Barlando's conclusion that DNA is merely a dual impedance antenna connecting us to source, when said connection is quelled or suppressed, interference occurs within our bioelectric bodies, just as would happen with conflicting radio signals. In Western medicine, this phenomenon is described as the shortening of mitochondrial telomeres and is associated with rapid aging. And when individuals make lifestyle changes, the process reverses, and the telomeres uncoil, rekindling the aforementioned interfered connection. I would also posit that another critical factor at play is, as mentioned earlier, the Servile Society's constant desire to disconnect mankind from nature and its cycles. This is explicit when examining the total deception of the Gregorian calendar, as well as daylight savings time. I say of all that to introduce probably the main attraction to the Free Republic, our Church of Self-Liberation, our nature sanctuary. While vestiges of the centralized, fascist electric grid exist here, as they do really everywhere, we remain far out in the wilderness, away from these detrimental influences. And even then, tower busters and orgone cannons work great at neutralizing those negative radiative effects. Attractions in our Church of Self-Liberation include ample selections for meditation or contemplation, lots of wilderness for hiking, creeks and ponds for relaxing and therapeutic swims, a large supply of natural forages, ranging from mushrooms and blackberries to sassafras, and much more in between, and no light pollution, giving PAZNians an uninhibited view of the heavens above. 2L, the PAZNIA LBRY. Some attention has been given to the LBRYs in the Department of Technology section above, but more details might be helpful. Starting with the local LBRY, any visitor to Veritas that is connected to our Wi-Fi will have access to it, it being a private Nextcloud server. The link to visit is PAZNIA.com/LBRY, or the Self-Liberator can download the Nextcloud app, scan a QR code, and have access through there. Since I use VPNs 100% of the time, I personally prefer the Nextcloud app, as split tunneling around the VPN is rather easy via something like Mullvad, safer, too. The only real improvements on the local side are a few mini routers located strategically around the homestead to increase distance and reliability, as well as a bigger external hard drive. On the other hand, the public PAZNIA LBRY is very much still theoretical, though the solutions, we think, have been found. I inquired to a few close colleagues about hosting a Nextcloud server through a public domain, lbry.paznia.com, and sending a few terabyte hard drive. Even with gigabyte connections, centralized streaming and downloading require a lot of bandwidth, and are not the optimal, decentralized solution. The cost is ridiculous too. That brings us to PeerTube, essentially putting YouTube channels onto torrents with seeders. This looks like a really beautiful solution, with even potential on-ramps to IPFS in the future. It's just, as with most of the Department of Technology projects, the learning curve is immense and would take a lot of time for me to figure out. I've put out the call for anyone willing to help, and am still hopeful that will come. Thinking forward, once the PAZNIA PeerTube instance is live, there should be implementations directly onto the PAZNIA site, i.e., recall lbry.paznia.com above. Also, with apps like GrayJ, which pull many feeds, YouTube, Odysee, Rumble, PeerTube, etc., connecting to the LBRY would be seamless. Further, from the launch, we'll have multiple seeders throughout the world, and hopefully always more coming on board. Truly, a most unfuckwithable library of Alexandria. Let's make it happen. 2M, the PAZNIA Free Press. The PAZNIA Free Press is the operator of the PAZNIA Radio Network, the now best source for all things PAZNIA, and all things self-liberation. Currently streaming to YouTube and Odysee, with more destinations forthcoming, the goal is to create an entertaining, educational, and more continuous source of content from these sorts of perspectives. The current vision is to aim for one broadcast a week initially, achieving daily broadcasts with daily themes, list below plus more, and eventually, 24/7 streaming, with live shows, guest hosts, and more. The options are truly endless. Sacred Sundays, a day of focus on mental and spiritual liberation. Music Mondays, freedom music blocks, metal Mondays, etc. Free Energy Fridays, breakthrough energy, fringe science, electric universe, and related miscellaneous topics. Self-defense Saturday, physical self-defense and digital self-defense. The eventual goal is a bit more radical. Back in the day, I ran a pirate AM/FM station for a short time. There was nothing cooler than driving home from work and tuning into Ben Stone or the Vonu Podcast, along with the few other folks that stumbled across the station. Eventually, some money could be allocated towards a handful of AM/FM radio transmitters, and donated to areas across the world, offering the PAZNIA Radio Network on AM/FM stations anywhere. Maybe we'll take over the shortwave radios too. Furthermore, the PAZNIA Free Press promotes and features the highest quality publications, ranging from strategy guides, old Vonu zines, all the way to agorist and anarchist fiction. Similar to culture jamming above, this is a way to create and express, and to use fiction as a medium to show what is possible. It's a way to create our own culture, our own entertainment that is empowering, liberating, and uplifting. Classic examples are the aforementioned Second Realm book on strategy, but modern agorist/anarchist fiction from contemporary self-liberators are worth a mention. #Agora by Anonymous, the Brushfire series by Matthew Wojtecki, the Evolution trilogy by Todd Borhos, Second Realm anthology. That leaves movies and music. Alongside Night, the J. Neil Schulman book has a movie, but it's mediocre and kinda awkward at best. The first Atlas Shrugged movie was pretty decent, but the rest, and the first, could be done a lot better. Firefly, the old TV series, is touted as one of the most libertarian science fiction shows. I have it downloaded to the LBRY, but haven't finished it in its entirety yet. Point is, the movie/TV portion of this is lacking, but I think that tide will turn with AI and coming technology. The ability to produce a Hollywood-quality movie with some $10,000 worth of investment is near. The music has always been here. From Kadhar chants, they were essentially exterminated by the state in the 1300s, to Triumph's Fight the Good Fight, 1981, up to Affiant's incredible We the Machines, 2012, and now, to the incredible acts of Richard Greaser, the Bitcoin Bugle. Here at Veritas, we strive to bring talented and like-minded acts to help facilitate this burgeoning second realm culture, to provide our own alternatives for entertainment. Chapter 3, PAZNIA Services and Marketplaces. If there's one page to bookmark from the PAZNIA site, it's the one highlighting our services and marketplaces, PAZNIA.com/services. Some links are for private members only, others are available to anyone, and there's much more to be added here in the future. The first item of note is the private, vetted PAZNIA map and directory, available to an initial set of founding SDA holders of the PAZNIA network. These folks have access to a map/directory of self-sufficient homesteads, PAZNIA B&B sites, city squat spots, local health food stores/farms, guerrilla gardening plots, and more coming, things like mail forwarding services, residency assistance, etc. Next is P.A.Z.NIA list, the Craigslist of the second realm. Categories include arbitration and security, crypto-anarchy, for sale, health and wellness, help wanted, homestead/contractor services, looking for work, the Department of Transportation, the PAZNIA Seed Exchange, and proxy merchant services. There are quite a few posts up already. Visit PAZNIA.com/list, check them out, and make your own today. Chapter 4, VanuFest and other events at the Free Republic. While staying connected in the digital realms are a necessity today, so are regular meetings and gatherings in physical space and time. For the most part, the digital helps to facilitate the physical, since these two areas of the human experience are essentially inextricable. So, that is a foundation of PAZNIA, something we strive to offer at Veritas at least a handful of times a year formally, though vetted self-liberators are welcome to visit whenever. These formal gatherings typically align with statist holidays, but are reappropriated to freedom holidays. This will be evident in the list below. Spring gathering, usually around the spring equinox, the true new year. Voluntarism Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend typically. Anarchy Day weekend, 4th of July. Agorism Day weekend gathering, Labor Day weekend. VonuFest Ethical Enclave Day, Thanksgiving celebration. Though, these events are not open to the general public. All self-liberators must be vetted, either by me personally, or someone already part of the PAZNIA network. In these wondrous gatherings, self-liberators still in transition from the first to second realm can enjoy time our agora, spending time with, learning from, and building with others of like mind. Not only is this about fun, but we strive to offer numerous self-liberational activities for those looking to expand their skill sets. As some examples, the assembling and testing out of a 3D printer self-defense training with our own Pat Henry, learning about our unique horticulture setups across Veritas, ranging from electroculture opportunities learning how to process lambs and or chickens experiencing and learning about the many unique offerings via our wellness center, mushroom identification and foraging hikes, rhino/four-wheeler rides through the wondrous wilderness that is our nature sanctuary, and much, much more. Interested in getting vetted and coming out to Veritas sometime? Join one of our committees of correspondence, introduce yourself, and start building your reputation. Please also reach out to Coordinator Ryo to see if there's an individual we both know in common that would vouch for you as a non-coercer, coordinator@PAZNIA.com. Alternatively, we usually make it out to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest in Michigan, and might work mid-fest into the future. Come meet us at one of these public events to expedite the vetting process. Overhearing the conversations in one of our clubs irritates the neophyte. Words and customs that are unknown in the filth of the first realm, and an occasional dispute spiced with curse words like statist, stotzy, or parasite. Nevertheless, the newcomer will be welcomed and taught, and given opportunity to prove himself should he show willingness and skill. However, not all of us live here all the time. Many lead a double life with only an occasional visit to our markets where they are greeted with their pseudonyms. Others operate their business half a day in the first realm, and open shop in the second after sunset. Still others are true ghosts to the first realm, having no footprint there except for traveling through it from one autonomous zone to another, some of them having perfected their livelihoods in our world, but others that just cannot stand the shallowness of the other side anymore. We are tribes of mind and soul, not defined by nation or race but by thought and substance. We are everywhere, and we are here to stay. Second Realm, Book on Strategy. Chapter 5, the PAZNIA Network. To try and paint a picture of the possibilities here, let's participate in a little thought experiment. Fast forward to PAZNIA year 10, 2030. The public map and directory are not only available, but include 42 self-sufficient homesteads, 25 city squat spots, 7 guerrilla gardening plots, and even more regional homesteads to more efficiently facilitate trade. Let's also say the full vision of the PAZNIA Department of Transportation is in effect, and we have our own fleet app, much like the First Realm alternative does, and that we also have a dedicated Second Realm fleet of drivers to connect these disparate network nodes. One of the hardest areas to overcome in the pursuit of self-liberation is financial/economic. That is, either saving up enough money where a job becomes optional, or discovering/building up different income streams. If there's any way that we can expedite and assist in the transition from First to Second Realm, we must do it. Tom Marshall, hypothetical in this case, could begin to chart out trade routes and opportunities found on the map and directory, and might even plan on stopping at a guerrilla gardening plot or two to harvest some food. Or maybe to plant some more seeds for those coming after. Passing through self-sufficient homesteads, Mr. Marshall acquires most, if not all, of his food, water, and other needs, almost entirely not reliant upon the First Realm grocery stores or services. For those that he can't acquire in the Second Realm, he consults the map/directory again, and finds a fellow self-liberator offering proxy merchant services in Chicago. Not only can Tom have a nice, safe spot to sleep in a warm shower, but Warren will run a couple errands for him and serve as a mail drop for some deliveries Tom had incoming for a small fee. Tommy, then, might hit up a Second Realm notel, that is, a nondescript empty house, rented pseudonymously, paid for via Monero, and unlocked via ghost phone. An internal reputation systems protects both renter and rentee. And finally, to conclude this thought experiment, Tom would like to visit some friends down in Ecuador. He returns to the wondrous map/directory to find a Second Realm private jet service leaving in 2 weeks for South America, putting him near enough to his destination. And without breaking the bank. He finds a Freedom Festival happening in the meantime, after a week and a half in the wilderness, soaking up the Second Realm with fellow self-liberators. Tom concludes this leg of his journey and sets his sights for the southern border. Such a network offers other advantages, a Second Realm underground railroad for those needing protection or escape, i.e. a network of safe houses. Van nomads could offer offline data mule services, downloading communications/data/etc. when leaving a homestead, and delivering it to another, Mail forwarding and permanent mailbox services could enable entrepreneurial opportunities for the offering self-liberator, and more options for the consumer in choosing residence and exercising other legal interstices. The stakeholder model. Beyond our public, free services, the PAZNIA network stakeholder model employed is much like that of a cooperative or a private membership association, only, ours isn't necessarily local, but worldwide. It's worth noting, these prices will go up in the future when we expand to our Tier 3 of fundraising. For current stakeholders, new tiers are 1/2 price. Honorary stakeholder memberships are available to anyone that visits the website. They are a way to gain access to some perks and benefits of the network, as well as contribute to the second realm, but not to areas that could degrade the safety or security of the network. $3 donation, stakeholder ID card, $55 donation, PAZNIA sticker, ID card, and digital self-liberation bundle from Liberty Under Attack Publications, $99 donation, stickers, ID card, digital self-liberation bundle, and PAZNIA flag, $333 donation, all of the above plus an official PAZNIA passport. Our founding stakeholder memberships are usually purchased when folks visit Veritas, but they are available to any vetted self-liberator. The benefits and perks are much greater here, and involve some participation in the building out of infrastructure. Discounts to other businesses/hustles in the Agora, access to the Second Realm network of non-coercers, access to the PAZNIA Department of Health and Wellness, healing devices and treatments. PAZNIA flag, ID, PAZNIA beach towel, and PAZNIA passport, access to the PAZNIA map and directory, be a part of the alternative/decentralized energy rollout beta test/contribute to the building of various infrastructure projects, i.e. the PAZNIA library, ghost system, etc. Lifetime 25% discount to Liberty Under Attack Publications and goods/services at PAZNIA, meat, eggs, dairy, chicks, etc. Early access to purchase items available at Veritas. Have questions? Looking to barter? We're always open to other possibilities. Again, just email coordinator@rayo.com. Chapter 6, The Coming Intentional Community. Back in year 0, 2020, when the vision of PAZNIA first came to me, the prospects for my desired intentional community were purely theoretical, not really developed in any real sense. Sure, I suppose there was 5 years of interactions and developing relationships with the core group of folks I invited to the first Vonu Fest. We'd all been going to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest in Michigan for a long while, me since 2015. But still, relocating one's life is usually not easy, so it still seemed rather unlikely. Then my wonderful free wife Aura moved here in 2021, and something like 20 freedom gatherings have taken place here since, including 5 Vonu Fests. In that time frame, there is now one couple interested in constructing a wilderness structure, 1 individual, and 1 family. That's not to mention we've had a van nomad select Veritas as one of his home bases where he spends most of the year, and has, for the past couple years. One option we've been mentioning to folks is the Amish sheds that are everywhere around here. With some work, it would be rather easy to have a small, self-contained, comfortable off-grid tiny house shed. There would be room for a good-sized garden and plenty of opportunities to help around the homestead, which is almost more needed than money, i.e. rent, now. And when the nomads decide to travel elsewhere, they can rent it out as a PAZNIA B&B while they're gone. These options are still available to the right, vetted self-liberator. Needless to say, I'm extremely happy with the progress over the past 5 years and that this far-out possibility is actually coming into fruition. Here's to looking back come year 10. Chapter 7, Get Involved, Join the Second Realm. First and foremost, join us in our various committee of correspondences. If you're not super tech-savvy or are new to the realm of encrypted apps, Telegram is a good enough start, t.me/PAZNIAchat. If you'd like to join us in what more resembles the second realm, Simplex is our current go-to platform. The encryption is rock solid, there are no phone numbers/identities attached, and messages are routed through many relays, offering censorship resistance. Scan QR code below. Wherever you join, please consider an introductory post. Let us know how you found PAZNIA, a bit into your path here, your current, or desired, liberated lifestyle, and whatever else you like. Second, consider becoming a SDA holder. Not only do you get some great perks and benefits, but it greatly helps us in funding the expansion of the second realm of the PAZNIA network. After getting your feet wet in the second realm, maybe you want to become a bigger part of the network? This would entail things like adding your homestead to the vetted map and directory, a van nomad squat spot, if you had one, or whatever other opportunity that could be of value to a traveling self-liberator. If this sounds like you, please visit PAZNIA.com/join and fill out the form. Or maybe you're a nomad and are looking for access to all that the PAZNIA network has to offer? In this case, visit PAZNIA.com/join too and fill out the form. Let us know what you're interested in and anything you're able to offer. Get vetted and come out to an event at Veritas. There are bigger freedom festivals, like the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest and Midfest. There's something about a tight-knit community of radical self-liberators who are already building liberated lifestyles. And for us all to be in the same place, it's truly magical. It's truly the only way to experience the second realm, in my opinion. Maybe you've got some technical/developer skills? If so, consider offering assistance in setting up the public PAZNIA LBRY on PeerTube, run Bitcoin/Monero nodes for folks in the network to connect to, help get the PAZNIA website set up on Tor. To name a few available projects. One other possibility, amongst a sea of them. Contribute to the development of the PAZNIA Department of Education. Much of this discussion has taken place in the Telegram chat, but a document is available for your submissions and contributions at PAZNIA.com/education. And finally, are you planning to attend a lot of freedom festivals, Monero conferences, privacy conferences, etc.? Become a PAZNIA ambassador. We'd get you set up with some merchandise and promotional material, and you would preach the good word of PAZNIA to anyone who will hear it. Other ideas? Just reach out, coordinator@PAZNIA.com. Chapter 8, in closing. While I do get impatient at times about the seemingly slow development of the second realm, I have to remind myself that all good things take time, and the amount of work to be done is expansive. I mean, hell, we're talking about the complete rebuilding of society. That, and taking a step back, it's easy to see how many important connections, developments, and events really transpired in just the past 4.5 years. The right folks are finding the PAZNIA network and real headway is being made. And with the publication and release of this book, the vision of what we can build together is hopefully clearer. So much so, that you're ready to get involved, whatever that means for you and yours. I'll end with one of the most impactful quotes from my posthumous mentor, Bill Cooper. Like it or not, everything is changing. The result will be the most wonderful experience in the history of man or the most horrible enslavement you can imagine. Be active or abdicate. The future is in your hands. Chapter 9, Freedom is Yours for the Seizing. By J.E.T., May 1966 Innovator. So you want to be free? Then become free. All of the freedom is yours which you are able to seize. How does one seize freedom? By avoiding, evading, escaping, discouraging, overpowering, destroying, or otherwise frustrating anyone who initiates force or threat of force against you. But the oppressors ignore my pleas for freedom, you complain. Do you expect them to set you free? As you yourself point out, your oppressors have morals which would shame a beast of the forests. So long as you obey all their rules, no matter how onerous, and pay all their taxes, no matter how burdensome, why should they? And the oppressors dupe my neighbors, who are confused, unaware, and apathetic, you protest. Do you expect them not to deceive? The herdsman can milk only tame cows, the tyrant can drive only submissive slaves. We must overturn the oppressors, some of you proclaim, and rule wisely and justly in their place. Then go do it, if you can. But don't be surprised when the oppressors stampede their bewildered subjects against you. We must educate, teach increasing numbers our values and ideas, others of you shout. And someday evil will be banished from the earth. But as even you admit in your more reflective moments, this will take time, much time. So how shall you live the only life you will ever have? And how many followers can you attract and hold if you offer only visions of a paradise for their great-grandchildren? Ideal want freedom, you cry. But there is no way to get it now, no chance to elect, no means to revolt, and no place to go. I reply, if you want freedom, seize it. But my oppressors are organized into a powerful state, you object. They have thousands of agents and millions of police. However, each of the state's minions has only the same 2 eyes, the same 2 hands, and usually not so much brains as you or I. They cannot be everywhere, they cannot see everything. But they will collect a tax on my earnings, you protest. Only if you are so craven as to hand it over. Discover ways to avoid their extortions, trade with those who practice freedom. Or be a gypsy who sells, and flees. But they will confiscate my property, you quaver. Only if you are so foolish as to lead them to it. Convert your wealth to forms you can conceal. And rent your shops and homes, or mortgage them to the hilt. But they will throw me in jail, you whimper. Only if you are so careless as to stumble over them, they who have trouble apprehending morons and psychopaths. Make yourself hard to find. But that is too much trouble, you wail. I would rather follow their rules and pay their taxes, lick their boots and hone their axes, do everything they demand, and maybe, oh maybe, they will leave me alone just a little. Then tag along with the sheep to slaughter, you who expect freedom on a silver platter. For how long can you appease the tyrant who will demand more and more, until he has you? And what do we know of this utopia that some of you dream of? In every land, of which we hear, there are some who covet the lives and creations of others, predators who rob and enslave the weak, the foolish, and the cowardly. Sometimes the predators are alone, and slink about as criminals. So the free men go like tigers, armed and ready for self-defense. Sometimes the predators join together, and stalk about as rulers. So the free men go like foxes, inconspicuous and ready to hide. Occasionally the free men ally to put down the predators. But sometimes their forces tend to become slavers and looters in return. However, in almost any land, those with the courage to assert their freedom seldom need to fight or hide, for the predators live off the easy prey. But this will pass, you say to me, for now, at last I have the key, the elixir for liberty, for the first time in history. And once sufficient numbers see. Well, maybe. But in the meantime, all of the freedom is yours which you are able to seize. About the author. Shane/Ryo 2 founded Liberty under attack in mid-2012 when he was just beginning his research into the nature of reality. He began with an adventure down the conspiratorial rabbit hole for a while, focusing primarily on the work of the late Milton William, Bill, Cooper. In February 2015, Shane started LUA Radio, which was one of his goals for quite a long time, and would prove to be the most critical step in his development personally, as well as the point of origination for the now real-world connections in the second realm, by getting connected with the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition via the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. Not long after launching LUA Radio, he adopted the philosophy and ethics of voluntarism, and shifted his focus towards solutions to increase personal freedom in the here and now. This manifested in the freedom umbrella of direct action, the digitization of Ryo's, Vonu, the search for personal freedom, this book being another critical step. Naturally, in January 2017, he launched the Vonu Podcast with Kyle Reardon, a podcast dedicated to promoting the philosophy of Vonu and developing the liberating strategy up into the modern day. This was about the time he began writing his first book, Vonu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, and founded his publishing outfit, Liberty Under Attack Publications, which focuses on strategies and tactics for self-liberation, in addition to anarchist/agorist fiction. In addition to all laid out above, he currently resides on his 22-acre homestead in the Free Republic of PAZNIA with his free wife, Aura, raising his lambs, goats, and chickens, and publishing books and podcasts. He hopes to publish more of his own work soon, too many unfinished works in progress.
You're listening to the PAZNIA Radio Network.
You've just heard the Book of PAZNIA, otherwise titled PAZNIA, a proposed model for the Second Realm Network, which will be released in audiobook, PDF, and paperback format via Liberty Under Attack publications soon. Up next is the Bitcoin Bugle blurb, a news block keeping you apprised on the most important issues in Bitcoin. Shout out to our friends Richard Grieser and Rod Palmer. Please continue to enjoy this inaugural broadcast here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. PAZNIA.com/radio.
Greetings, fellow self-liberators. My name is Richard Grieser, and you are listening to the PAZNIA Radio Network.
Welcome back to Plebs on Parade, the show where every pleb is a potential philosopher. I'm your host, Timmy Tether, and today we're talking to plebs about the Department of Government Efficiency. Is it good? Is it bad? What do plebs think? Let's find out. It's Timmy Tether again here in beautiful Long Island. We're talking to Thomas from Jacksonville, Florida. Thomas, what do you think about Elon Musk's new Doge efforts in Washington, D.C.?
I don't like that Elon Musk has access to all my personal private information. He's a billionaire. If he wants my data, he should either engineer a digital platform to harvest my thoughts in exchange for dopamine or buy my data off the dark web like everybody else.
You heard it here, folks. Proof of work. No more free access to our data. Next, let's ask Shinobi from Chicago. Shinobi, how do you feel about Doge?
Fuck that technocrat piece of shit. Elon Musk is a fucking retard, and so are his supporters.
Well, all right. Shinobi from Chicago doesn't sugarcoat it, ladies and gentlemen. Elon Musk is a fucking retard. All right, our last pleb is Terry from South Dakota. Terry, thoughts on Doge?
Timmy Tether, let me tell you something. I used to be a proud taxpayer until Doge revealed my taxes are going towards turning me into a gay retard. That's why I support Doge, and I support Big Balls. I would be proud to call Big Balls my son or my nephew. I wish we had more young Big Balls in D.C.
All right, there you have it. Terry supports Doge, and it sounds like you also stand behind Big Balls despite the controversies.
I love Big Balls.
That's all for this week, folks. I'm your host, Timmy Tether. Thanks for watching Plebs on Parade.
The most spectacular treasure in history. Developed over decades by cypherpunks across different continents. It was finally completed by a mysterious cypherpunk named Satoshi, whose keys were hidden somewhere in the digital realm. But he left clues for us hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to find them before the CIA discovered the treasure and its potential.
Keeping this treasure out of the hands of the spooks, Michael, is your destiny.
You're Bitcoin investors, aren't you?
We're more like Bitcoin savers, actually.
All his life, Michael Saylor searched for a thermodynamically sound asset no one believed existed.
Don't you get it, Michael? The asset is a myth.
I refuse to believe that.
But what he thought was the final clue was only the beginning.
It's hidden in plain sight. It's in Satoshi's white paper.
You think Satoshi's keys are encoded in the white paper?
It's a cipher.
And how do you know that, exactly?
We don't...
Is the cipher in the room with us? Right now?
But Michael Saylor isn't the only one who discovered the hidden treasure.
The CIA is working around the clock to crack the code. Hell, they might have already cracked it.
Now, he's in a race against time and against spooks to recover Satoshi's wallet before it's too late.
We have to get our hands on those keys and distribute Satoshi's coins to podcasters through fountain boosts before the CIA gets them.
The CIA gets them, and then what?
Everything Whitney Webb warned us about comes true.
Michael Saylor must unlock the secrets of game theory using first principles thinking and tap the cyber hornet brain trust of Bitcoin Twitter, group chats, and Bitcoin podcasts to save the world from being taken over by feds.
Try brute force.
Tether is working with Langley. We might be too late.
Michael Saylor. National Treasure 3. Genesis Code.
The school year is just getting started, but it's not too early to start thinking about ways to keep your kids busy next summer. You don't want your child to miss our Cypherpunk summer camp. We are now enrolling all kids ages 7 through 16. Cypherpunk summer camp teaches students how to build their own seed signer, broadcast a transaction using ham radio, run a lightning node, use coin joins, set up a Sparrow wallet, and much more. At Cypherpunk Summer Camp, kids don't just learn how to transact adversarially, we also cover homesteading, rolling your own open source cigarettes, and even martial arts. Hear what parents have to say about Cypherpunk Summer Camp.
My name is Jeff from Naples, Florida. I send my son to Cypherpunk Summer Camp because, as a macro podcaster, I'm not a technical expert, but I want my son to learn the skills necessary to defeat the feds.
Space is limited, so don't wait. Enroll your child in Cypherpunk Summer Camp today.
Alright, DJ Brian FreeRobot here again. I sure hope you enjoyed the Bitcoin Bugle blurb with our friends, Richard Dick Greaser and Rod Palmer over at the Bitcoin Bugle. Please do support their efforts, most importantly, by streaming them sats on Fountain Podcasts via the Bitcoin Lightning Network, while streaming their weekly shows. Further, to support Rayo 2, the PAZNIA Radio Network, and the Second Realm more generally, we do have to take a few minutes to tell you about a couple releases available via Liberty Under Attack publications. Following the ad break, we'll turn our attention to a Vonu Podcast debut here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. That will be the only video portion of, so if you'd like to open up YouTube or Odysee to watch, this is a good time to do so. Rayo 2 had the opportunity to speak with Stefan Verstappen, a fellow freedom pioneer doing some truly great work, building communities, teaching self-defense, and writing books on the art of urban survival. If you're still here, you're going to love Stefan. We may even have him on as a guest host for one of our self-defense Saturdays. That's all for now. I'll be back to close us out after. PAZNIA.com/radio. DJ Brian FreeRobot, out.
The newest from Liberty Under Attack publications, The Second Realm Anthology, a collection of short stories that inspire freedom and self-liberation. The First Realm, mainstream society, which does not respect self-ownership or individual liberty, but rather heralds the supremacy of government and authority, upholds the collective over the individual. The Second Realm, a parallel network, founded upon the principles of truth, freedom, and voluntarism, rebuilding all necessary human institutions upon these frameworks. The Second Realm Anthology is a collection of short stories originally published in the Road to Autonomy magazine from a vast selection of authors across a diverse range of topics in the area of freedom, the building of the parallel society known as the Second Realm. The goal is to inspire and educate, to motivate and self-liberate. Authors: Todd Borho, Graham Smith, Jackie Kerouac, Patrick Henry, and Josiah Warren. Order your copy of Second Realm Anthology today by visiting libertyunderattack.com/sranthology. Again, libertyunderattack.com/sranthology. Bitcoin and Monero accepted and preferred. Want to pay with Bitcoin Lightning? Email Shane at libertyunderattack.com.
because that's really the issue that we're dealing with these, ghost phones, ghost pads, whatever, is that there's no way that you can organize with other people and have these distributed tribes if you have a snitch in your pocket all the time. People are literally wearing wires all the time. They have a snitch in their pocket and they're trying to do clandestine things. That's never going to work. I'm focused on this project now because I really see how the unfettered flow of communication is what really has prompted this, shift in consciousness. And that if this can't continue this way and people can't communicate freely with each other, then all the distributed networks that have formed aren't going to be very effective, and they're not going to be able to do what they could do. If you can't communicate, especially when you're basically part of a dispersed tribe at this point, if you can't communicate without being monitored, it basically hamstrings anything going forward.
Step up your privacy and order a ghost phone today. Just visit libertyunderattack.com/ghost phone. Again, libertyunderattack.com/ghost phone. And make sure to keep a lookout for more ghost pads, privacy tools, freedom boxes, and more. libertyunderattack.com is the website. Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story, find your freedom.
Welcome to the Vonu Podcast, the podcast making you invulnerable to the coercion of the state and the servile society. I'm your host, Shane Rayo2, coming to you from the Free Republic of PAZNIA, the Self-Liberator's Paradise. For more information on this burgeoning parallel network, please visit PAZNIA, PAZNIA.com. I'm back with a now rare interview podcast today, joined by fellow freedom pioneer Stefan Verstappen. His website is chinastrategies.com. He's the author of many books, including The Art of Urban Survival, A Guide to Forming Communities, and The Way of the Warrior, to name just a few. First and foremost today, I'm really looking forward to hearing about the community he's been building and seeing what we can learn from each other, since we're both actually doing it. I'm also extremely excited to get his take on urban survival, what we call Vonuing in cities on this podcast. This interview happened so quick, I've actually not had the chance to read that book yet, but most definitely will, and we'll get an introduction here today. And finally, as for the Envision topics, I'd like to dive a bit into wilderness survival and maybe some self-defense stuff, but we'll have to see how we are on time at that point. And I suppose I should also...
it's going to be a lot of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no doubt. And I suppose I should also mention that this podcast is being heard for the first time over at the PAZNIA Radio Network. So if you're tuning in on this March 2nd in the future, you're getting this ahead of time. And if you happen to be on the podcast feed, YouTube, etc., please do head on over to PAZNIA.com/radio. Learn more and catch us for a live premiere or live show on YouTube and Odysee in the future. Anyway, without further ado, Stefan, welcome to the Vonu Podcast, my friend. Really appreciate how quick this happened. It's great to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on, Shane. Much appreciated. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and yeah, I tend to do things quickly. I don't like to wait around. We don't have that much time left. So, yeah, I'm ready to go at a moment's notice.
Right on. Yeah, and that was going to be something that I was going to. I don't actually know what to call him. There wasn't really a name in the email, but he'll be out there listening. He knows who he is. Thank you very much for the connection. But yeah. Anyway,
I don't know what to call him either.
Fair enough.
Go ahead, sorry.
But oh no, you're all right, man. So yeah, like I said before, I usually like to be more prepared when I have people on, reading their books and a lot more. But anyway, we can go into more detail in the future. But anyway, happy to be here. So yeah, I guess from the interview or two I checked out, you've had quite a life. Lots of travel around China, a passion for martial arts and self-defense. Then now you're focused on building communities. So I guess the life story sort of question here. However much or however little you'd like to share, tell us a bit about how you got here.
Well, the reason I'm here with building communities is because this is the final solution for us. For us, I mean Western European descendant people. I don't like to use a color to describe myself. We are under attack, as you know. We are targeted for genocide. And we live in a communist, Marxist dictatorship, certainly here in Canada, and coming soon to my American cousins. And we need to fight back. Now, the solution I discovered, well, first of all, I've been a conspiracy theorist for about 53 years. And I've been fighting the New World Order for that long, if that's what you want to call it. There's a lot of different names we could use, but I've been fighting the New World Order for that long. People say, well, how could you be fighting the New World Order for that long? It wasn't even a popular term. No, it wasn't a popular term, but in 1973, when I was 15 years old, they played the Zapruder film on television. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Zapruder film is the 8mm film allegedly filmed during the Kennedy assassination. And for like the previous 8 years, they were lying about the Kennedy assassination. They kept saying, his head flew forward when the bullet hit him. And, then they finally played the film, and you could clearly see that his head moved back and to the left. Obviously, he was shot from the front and to the right. But what that did for me is, because I'm not an idiot, I was born with a built-in bullshit detector. I could always tell when people were lying. I can always tell when things were not up to snuff. And so what I realized was that every mainstream media in the world was lying to cover up the Kennedy assassination. Mm-hmm. Every mainstream media. No, listen, I'm a 15-year-old kid. I'm just a snot-nosed kid. But when I see somebody's head go flying back and to the left, that tells me the bullet came from the front. And they even made up some ridiculous excuses to explain it. One of these, mainstream media talking heads even said that, well, the reason the head went back was because the bullet opened a hole in the front, and the pressure of the blood caused like a jet engine effect, forcing the head back. Oh, come on, you got to be really a complete idiot to believe that for even a moment. And yet everybody was in on it. So wait a minute. The media was in on it. They lied about everything. Every ABC, NBC, CBS, everybody. Your local media, everybody lied about it. All the law enforcement lied. Where's the CIA? What? They couldn't see. They couldn't tell what a 15-year-old boy could see. When did they come out and say anything about it and reveal the truth about the assassination? Nobody, not the FBI, not the police, not the media, not the government. Everybody was in on covering this up. Now, that scared me, because I realized that whoever was behind it controls everything. Mm-hmm. They control the government. They control the media. They control the law enforcement. They control the judiciary, because not one person came out and said, wait a minute, now that we've seen this film, it's pretty obvious he wasn't shot from behind. Not only that, every other country in the world went along with it. I mean, okay, let's say there's, some big powerful family in the United States that controlled all that. Let's say it's the Bushes. I mean, obviously, George Bush Sr. was involved in the assassination. That's pretty obvious. And, well, let's say he had a lot of power then. He was the head of the CIA at that time. Right. So let's say, the Bush family had so much power, they could cause everybody in the United States to shut up. They could cause the media not to cover it. They could, shut down the police and law enforcement. Let's say they had that kind of power, which the Bush family didn't, but let's say they did, because that would be the other excuse. Well, it was a powerful family in the United States that shut it all down. Well, okay, not the Bushes, but how would they shut down England, Holland, Germany, Russia, France, Australia, Canada? I mean, all these countries have media. How come now a single talking head investigative reporter in any other country in the world came out with an article around the lines of, or a story that said, well, it looks pretty suspicious that it went back and to the left? Nothing. Silence all over the world. So then I realized whoever these people are control everything. And so I kept my eyes open. From that point on, I never trusted the media ever again. They lied about the JFK assassination. What more do you need to know? They lied about it. They covered up the real murderers.
Yeah.
Why would you ever listen to the mainstream media? Like, to me, that's, when you lie to me and you lie to my face about something that serious, I will never trust you again. I won't. So that happens. Then, again, a couple of years later, now I'm 15. I'm going down to the University of Toronto because I was born and raised in Toronto. Excuse me. And I went down to the University of Toronto to what was called Rochdale College, long since been bulldozed down. But Rochdale College was the student housing, and we'd buy marijuana. And that was one of the places you'd go to buy marijuana back in those days. It was illegal then. So we went down to University of Toronto to buy marijuana, and I'm sitting there with my pot dealer, and he was saying something. I'd never heard something so ridiculous. He said, "Oh, did you know that the CIA are doing mind control experiments on Canadian housewives?" Well, listen, I already, I'm on to the conspiracy thing with the whole Kennedy assassination, but this was way over. The CIA is operating in Canada, doing mind control experiments on Canadian housewives. Really? That was too crazy. That was too crazy. Well, son of a bitch. 4 years later, there was a documentary, an episode on a program here in Canada. I think it was called The Fifth Estate. It's something like a 60 Minutes style program. And the Fifth Estate came out with a story that said, oh my God, well, guess what? There was this doctor at McGill Medical University in Montreal, and turned out he was doing these medical experiments on housewives for mind control. He would put them into an induced coma. Then, while they were in a coma, he would feed them large amounts of LSD. Then, while they were in a coma, the brain's going insane on LSD, they put headphones on these poor women, and it was mostly women, put headphones on these poor women and what they called driving, and they had a recorded tape loop that constantly went something like, your mother hates you, your mother hates you, your mother hates you. And they kept these people in a coma for 2 weeks at a time, and they were giving them electroshock therapy. Can you imagine a more horrific torture than to be out of your mind on LSD, getting electric shock therapy by these crazed doctors? And it turns out the whole thing was funded by the CIA. It was one of the early MK Ultra programs. And it turned out all of this was true. So, well, what am I supposed to say now? I mean, the most outrageous, ridiculous, crazy conspiracy theory turned out to be completely true. So I've had, 50 years of keeping a close eye on these bastards because I know what they're capable of. And where we are headed is into a collapse. They are bound and determined to destroy everything good and healthy and beautiful in the world. They are literally demonic monsters, and they control everything. So, well, how do we survive that? How do we get through this? How do we get through this? You can't fight them. Forget about, getting your AR-50 and going out in the woods and practicing with a couple of the boys. That's not, I like to do that, but it's not going to get anywhere. So I began writing already over 25 years ago. My first book was the 36 Strategies of Ancient China, which is a book on how to be ruthless and cunning. One of the first things I realized with our people, Western people, is that we are very naive. We're too understanding, we're too forgiving, we're too giving, which is a good thing when you live in a high trust society. So if you lived in Holland in 1950, all those were good qualities to have. They're not good qualities to have now, because it makes you a sucker, and it makes you vulnerable, and it makes you a victim. Well, what can we do then? Well, I wrote that book because people need to understand how ruthless, cunning people operate. Psychopaths. We are ruled by psychopaths. I came out with an article that was published in the Trends Journal with Gerald Celente, and I made a YouTube video called Defense Against the Psychopath. And it's the very first chapter in my book, The Art of Urban Survival. Why is it the first chapter? Because we're talking urban survival. What you need to know, as we all heard the famous quote by Sun Tzu, The Art of War, number one, know your enemy. Mm-hmm. So who's our enemy? Well, most of the bastards in government and media and banking and so on. But ultimately, who are they? They are psychopaths. Psychopaths will always accumulate at the top of every infrastructure, at the top of every pyramid. They will dominate, and they will come to rule the world. They're the politicians. They're the celebrities. They're the journalists. They're the CEOs. It's always going to be psychopath at the top there. Always. So if you wonder why, oh my God, look at the world that we live in now. Shane, it's heartbreaking to see what's going on. The drug addiction and the homelessness and the poverty. It's been destroyed, absolutely destroyed. This is like some post-apocalyptic nightmare already. It's not, we're waiting for the post-apocalypse. No, it's here. Take a look around. It's already here. How could this come about? All this cruelty and inhumanity. Well, it comes about because the people that run things are psychopaths. They're the equivalent of serial killers. Your governor is a serial killer. Your president is a serial killer. You need to think of them like that and do some research. I did a lot of research on psychopaths, and they are really dangerous, evil people. There's nothing they won't do. There's no crime so horrible, so cruel, so insidious that they would not gladly commit that crime and go to sleep without a problem in the world. These are psychopaths. This is what we're dealing with. So the first chapter in my book, The Art of Urban Survival, is Defense Against the Psychopath, which is a spin-off from my book on Chinese strategy. Look, folks, you got to realize what we're dealing with. If you don't know what we're dealing with, then you have no chance to survive what's coming. It's a psychological battle. It's a spiritual battle, too. You need to harden your heart. The Christians have this saying, you need to get on God's armor. I'm not a Christian, but I can agree with that sentiment. Because what you're up against is mind-numbing. And then I wrote the book, The Way of the Warrior. Well, why? Well, first of all, I've been a martial artist for over 45 years. I studied in China for 4 years. I love martial arts. I think it's a fantastic sport. I think You learn some really excellent skills, life-saving skills. I think everybody should learn it, you know. I think you should teach your kids. You should teach your daughters and your sons. Your wife should know a little bit. And if you're a man, yeah, you know, you got to know how to win a fight. You fight. If you're afraid of losing a fight, what kind of a man are you? Because then you'll be intimidated and coward, and you'll back down. I mean, we haven't even begun the fight yet, all right? The fight that's coming is going to be really, really ugly. And who can handle that? Only a warrior is going to be able to face this. Ordinary people aren't going to be able to face it. As a matter of fact, I even encourage the men, the husbands, the fathers, keep your wives and daughters away from this subject. It is too ugly for them. Yeah. Teach them some self-defense techniques. Teach them how to shoot. Absolutely. Make sure they all have a pistol and know how to use it. Everybody should do that. Everybody. Start teaching your kid as soon as they're 6 years old. If you have guns in the house, teach them how to use it. But for the most part, keep them away from it because they can't handle it. Women can't handle what we are going to face. Children certainly can't handle it. So it's up to us men, the real men, you know, the old-fashioned men that I have a vague memory of meeting and knowing 60 years ago. There were real men back then, back in the 60s. They protected their families. They sheltered them. They did everything themselves. They fixed their own cars, built their own fences, you know, fixed their own roofs. They did everything. They were strong and they were sane. And that's what we need to defend against what's coming. So that's why I wrote my recent 3 books. I've written other books, but those are the important ones. Chinese strategy, learn how to be ruthless. Learn how these people use strategy and tactics. It blows you away. If there's a way of screwing somebody over, they figured it out and codified it into a strategy. Because why? Well, the people we are dealing with, the politicians, the CEOs, the psychopaths, they know all these dirty tricks. They know them, and they use them all the time. All these dirty, manipulated gaslighting and deception, and they know how to use it. And if you don't know these tactics and strategies, you're going to become a victim. If you don't know this stuff, how can you defend yourself against the evil powers that be? You can't. Then, Art of Urban Survival. Again, learn about what psychopaths are. Guarantee every one of you knows a psychopath and have probably been a victim of a psychopath at some time in your life. You got to know these people. But in addition, the book also goes into, I wrote the book based on my prediction for how society falls. So first thing is psychopaths. There is going to be an increase in psychopaths. I don't know why this happens at the end of every civilization, but it does. It's like the ultimate survival instinct kicks in. And that ultimate survival strategy is to be a psychopath. Kill, steal, rob, deceive, cut people's throats while they're sleeping. This is what psychopaths do to survive. But then it goes into things like crime. At the end of civilization, we see an increase in crime. So you better be street smart. You better know how to, protect yourself when you're on public transit or walking down the street or driving in your car, how to make sure your home is safe. And then we go into natural disasters. For some reason, at the end of every civilization, there is an increase in natural disasters. There's some reasons that we can go into, but already we're running out of time. But that's what happens. The government, instead of, they tax you under the pretext of fixing, let's say, the levees. But the money doesn't go to fix the levees. Oh, surprise. Where'd the money go to? Well, the money went to the politicians. So what about the levees? Well, they're allowed to rot. Then the next hurricane, the whole area is flooded because the levees broke. Look at Hurricane Katrina. I mean, that's a typical example. And that goes, the same holds true for rivers and bridges, and it all starts to fall apart, natural disasters. So that's what happens. So you have to be good at surviving natural disasters. You need a bug out bag. You need a home emergency kit. You need to have skills on how to build shelters and build fires and cook food over a campfire. And you need all those skills during a natural disaster. Then after that comes man-made disasters. And these are disasters that are caused, usually, almost always, by our own government. Martial law, widespread corruption, war. So you need to have the skills to survive those. How do you survive martial law? How do you get around? How do you survive riots? How do you survive World War III? It's not that complicated, it's very simple, easy to know advice. But that's you need to know this stuff. This is what happens at the end of civilization. And then finally, my last book, The Way of the Warrior. In order for you to be able to do anything of what I just said, you got to be a real man. Yeah, you can't be a soy boy. Soy boys can't do this. You have to be mentally and physically strong and spiritually strong. And I think it was Socrates that said, courage is the first hold on a second. I'm dry now.
No worries. No worries at all.
Is the first now I forgot. It's a famous quote. That makes all the others possible. In other words, virtue, that's what it was. Courage is the first virtue that makes all the other virtues possible. And that's true. If you're a coward, you cannot be a good man. If you're a coward, you cannot rescue your neighbor. You cannot help your family. If you're a coward, you cannot stand up for your country and your people if you're a coward. So Socrates said, yeah, courage is the first virtue. And I agree 100%. Weak men are not going to help anybody. So you got to be a strong man. You got to be a warrior. And that is to follow the path of the warrior, which is, yes, learn martial arts, sure. Learn to shoot a gun, absolutely. But most of the way of the warrior is self-control, how to be a stoic, how to not let all this get to you, how not to become anxious and afraid. And so that's where we are now. Finally, once you have all that together, how do we survive? So I went again. I'm a big fan of history. I went and I studied history. What did people in the past do to survive the collapse of their society? What happened after the collapse of Rome? What happened after the collapse of the Ming Dynasty? Well, what happened was people formed small, autonomous communities, and they helped each other. They helped each other out. We can't save America anymore, Shane. It's gone. It's gone. It's done. We can't vote. We can't, start another political party. It's going to make a difference. We can't protest in the street. Oh, down with evil cocksuckers. Yeah, that ain't going to work. So what's going to work? The only thing that works, and I've proven it now, tried and tested. This is not theory. We form communities all over the place around here that help each other out. Small communities, 80, 100 people, 120 people. That's about it. Sometimes as few as 20 or 30, doesn't matter. And these people, we help each other out. And how we help each other out is to detach ourselves as much as possible from the general society. So our community started during the lockdowns when people weren't allowed to go into the grocery store unless they had their little approval card. You know what I'm talking about. I can't say it because we're going on YouTube.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Well, if I could jump in for just a moment before we get into the the communities part, that's what I'm most looking forward to getting into. But I guess just a couple of things you mentioned that were interesting before, and we've talked about Kyle, my co-host on this podcast. We've talked about it before. Like a lot of Western people are so sheltered, like they've never actually experienced violence in their lives. So all of this stuff is just foreign. Yeah, it's very sheltered. Not any realistic perspective on things. But as for what we call Vonuing in cities, or I guess the art of urban survival, to give you some context on Vonu, I guess where we come at it from, Vonu is basically defined as lifestyle changes in pursuance of an invulnerability to coercion. So it's becoming invulnerable to the coercers by becoming invisible to them, at least in all senses, but especially in the city sense. Practicing the gray man, alternative housing solutions. Back in the 60s and 70s, renting places without ID is not really possible. But there's more strategies now, but things are different than when they were back in the 60s and 70s, which I guess you could attest to. Driving an inconspicuous car. There are a lot of nomads in our network, so like living in an inconspicuous vehicle, like a big RV, draws a lot more attention than like a nondescript delivery truck.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I guess one of the other components, and you talked, I guess, more kind of like the spiritual mental part of it, which I think is it's one reason I can't live in the cities. Rayo called them the city psychological pressures. Like it basically, it has a very high, like, people that don't go all the way with liberation, at least what he wrote about, they ended up going like halfway, and like half a foot, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it kind of turns them into a schizophrenic, at least to some extent. So, like I agree with Ray. I mean, we're way out in the middle of nowhere here at Veritas PAZNIA, and that's where I think that's the best way to be, far away from cities. And I guess to transition into the communities portion, I guess the little background on PAZNIA too, which is I guess the community that we're building. I guess it's a little bigger than that, like a parallel network, second realm parallel network. So Veritas PAZNIA here, we had a declaration. I guess we had a rebirth of freedom ceremony here with 30 or so people that came out and signed our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, and basically all the Constitution is basically like anyone that is vetted in the network. It's a private vetted network. They have to forswear the use of coercion, and they have to be vetted and known by someone in the network.
Yep. And I agree.
So we've got our Veritas PAZNIA here is basically an hour-and-a-half east of St. Louis. There's somewhere in New York. There's I think there's one over in Europe too. There's a place or two in Mexico. They're all over the world. So basically, it's wherever you go in the world, you've got. We're trying to build like everything you'd need from the first round from the Servile Society. We're trying to make that accessible to folks in our network. And then I guess the stage now, all this stuff takes time, which I'm sure you can kind of attest to. There's always work to be done, always a lot of work to be done. But kind of the point now is we've found some trusted folks that also share a similar vision, and we're kind of working towards the actual intentional community here at our property, at our homestead. So. Like I watched the video that you sent me on, I guess, on your community, and I love it. And I'd love to get more into that. So yeah, I guess tell us about you got your community started back around 2020, which makes sense. That's when PAZNIA was founded too. So yeah, I guess dive back into it if you like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good stuff, Shane. That's what we need to do. The more, the better. We don't all have to be under the same umbrella or anything like that. No. But listen, there's like 3 or 4 other communities very similar to us. They're not us, but they're similar to us that are close by, and we cooperate with them all the time. we do things together. For example, when we have like a music festival, everybody bring their acoustic, and we'll go out in the field and have a bonfire and a potluck dinner, and we'll all play music. And they all come, they all bring their kids. We have a lot of families in our community, and the kids all know each other, and they get to play together every time we have a public event. And the way we do it is we limit people exactly the way you said. First of all, they have to be recommended by another member. And then we interview them, and then we let them come to a few meetings for a couple of weeks. And then we decide if we want to have them as a permanent member. You have to do that. You have to vet your people as best you can without being too paranoid, but whatever. You can't just let anybody and everybody in. It doesn't work. Never works.
No.
That was the downfall of all the hippie communes in the 60s and 70s. It was, free love, everybody's welcome. And, well, you get a whole bunch of people that just use the system and destroy it. So you have to vet your people. With us, we had two sort of prerequisites. One, you could not have gotten the experimental medical procedure. If you know what I'm talking about, we're going on YouTube.
Yep.
So if you gave in and got the experimental medical procedure, you can't be a member of our community, because that thing was, number one, first, a giant IQ test. Everybody that went along with the programming, you're no good to us. We need independent thinkers, people that, can think for themselves. And if you could think for yourself, you would not have gone along with the medical mandates forced on everybody, number one. And number two is you need to live within a 30-minute drive of our center of our location. So our community stretches across a county. Everything where I live in southwestern Ontario. Everything here is named after something in England. Right. We have London, we have Stratford, we even have Paris, small town called Paris. And I live in Oxford County. The main river here is the Thames River, But you have to live within Oxford County. So it's no good. You're no good to us if you have to drive 2 hours to get here. Better that that's why we have all these satellite communities. You might be closer to the community in Delhi, which is about 40 minutes away. It's not a big drive or anything. That's why we can still get together for special occasions and events and that, but it's too much, because when, if we have a huge crisis and you live, more than an hour drive away, what is the likelihood of you making it back to the clubhouse and participating in the defense and setting up shelters and cooking food and all? What's the chance? It's very slim. So one of the things I recommend is that you limit the distance somebody can travel, because if it's too far, and also with a half-hour drive for me, since I get around mostly by bicycle, I can still bicycle to the headquarters, to our clubhouse, in about probably, well, I'm getting old now, so let's say 2 hours. So I can bicycle in 2 hours to get there. I don't need gas for the car. And if there are roadblocks and checkpoints, I can just go by bicycle. I don't need the vehicle. So those are two things that we have. The other thing too is I live in a small town. I tried to create communities for about 7 years when I lived in the big city, and I did everything. Meetup groups, and I even taught martial arts in the park for free. Anybody wants to come, as a way of getting people to come together. I mean, if I can get people to study martial arts, at least I know they're a little bit more rugged than the leftard soy boys, which we don't want anyways.
Right.
And I completely failed. The city is a very hard place to find a community. People don't cooperate, even though, within a couple of 2 city blocks, there's more population than the entire population of the county that I live in now. Still couldn't find anybody to work together. I don't know what it is. The urban environment just destroys people's trust and their ability to work together. So it never happened. So now I live in a small town, 13,000 people. And, I know half the town. I've been here 3 years. I can't walk down the street without people waving and saying hello. They know who I am. Even the people that aren't part of the community know who I am, because in addition to our community, there's other communities of people that volunteer. They volunteer at the church every Thursday night at the Stitch Church. Free dinner for anybody who wants to come, and a good dinner too. They feed about 200 people every Thursday. And when you leave the church, you go to the back, and there is all kinds of food in boxes. Help yourself, free. Take the food. It's like a food bank. And the local businesses donate, extra food and money. And the people volunteer to cook the meals and clean up afterwards and all that. I know 3 of the people live right next door to me that volunteer there. They're not part of my community, but they're part of a community of people that help each other out. It's another thing I tell people. If everybody says, "Oh, I'm trying to find people that nobody wants to join and work together," I said, "Well, volunteer somewhere. Volunteer at the food bank. Volunteer at the local library. Volunteer to teach Little League. Volunteer to teach karate to the kids, because you will meet other volunteers. And volunteers, people that will do that, they will spend their time and energy to help other people. These are the qualities you're looking for. These are the people you want to be around. So yeah, I know. I know the people at the food bank here. I know people at the church. I'm not a Christian, but I know them. I support them. And so that's a couple of things. A rural area, and also the other good thing is we have a lot of Amish around here. We got Amish and Mennonite. They have big farms. And often we will buy our food directly from the farmers. For example, we buy raw milk or whole milk. I forget what they call it, raw milk. From the Amish, which is illegal. Oh my God! I hope the FBI isn't listening in. Oh, there's people that just want to buy raw milk. Oh my God, they're going to send a SWAT team. But it's all done very carefully. Okay, we don't. We call the farmer up and said, yeah, we want 3 quarts. Okay, so in the little tool shed outside the barn, there'll be 3 quarts there. The farmer won't be there. You just pull in, go into the tool shed, grab your milk, leave the money in the jar in the tool shed, and off you go. Yeah. So they can never be charged, even if you were being followed by the Secret Service.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly how the place I've gotten raw milk from for 3 or 4 years. It's I guess they switched over the past couple of years. Yeah, you just go in, drop off the money, and grab your milk and go. It's self-serve.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for chickens and produce and vegetables and whatever, and eggs, and you just we try to source most of it from the local farmers. So we don't have to go to a grocery store. Screw them bastards. They locked us out. You cannot buy food. Go and starve to death, you bastards. And because you don't have the little card that signifies you were stupid enough to follow along with medical mandates. Look, that's war, okay? That's war. So wherever we can, we avoid the supermarkets. And there's other things. There's like farmers co-ops. We have a farmers co-op here called Fentings. And my friend Dixie runs it for our community. You go online, they got a website, and you place your order, whatever you want, milk, eggs, chicken, beef, bacon, you name it. They have it all. It's part of a farmer's co-op. So the farmers bring their produce and their products to the farmer's co-op. The only catch is that the minimum order is $500. That's the only catch. So for a small family, you had to afford $500. Well, that might be not so much anymore, right? But it might be a sticking point. But we have 10 people put in an order for $50 each. There you go.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, you don't have to go shopping. They put it in a truck and they deliver it to your house. So there'll be a big van, like we delivered to one of our houses, Dixie. We delivered to Dixie's house. So she puts in the order, you put in the order, and she puts it in, and they deliver it to her house. They take it out of the truck, they bring it up onto the porch, and then everybody drop by sometime during that day and pick up your box. So, you know, this is the way to go. We got to separate ourselves as much as possible from the big corporations, including the big grocery chains. You know, they didn't do us any favors. So that's another thing that we do. The other things that we do.
Could I ask? So there was one point that's and I mean, kind of goes along with the vetting portion of it, but yeah, obviously security culture principles are very important for these things to continue to exist. As you said, there's no security principles back in the hippie communes, and yeah, where are they today? So there's one thing that was kind of interesting, which I think is it's definitely the right way to do it. But you said basically the name of your community doesn't appear anywhere online.
No.
So I guess could you talk a little bit more about, maybe that, and then other kind of, I guess, other ways you have found that are good for maintaining the longevity of your communities?
Sure, ways to maintain the longevity. First of all, we do not have any kind of internet presence. We don't have a website. We have a name. It's just sort of it's like a non-generic name. Doesn't mean anything and doesn't tell you anything. But you can Google the name, nothing will come up. So, you know, I even tried AI, any information about this group of people called, and then I put in the name that we go under, and AI came back with nothing. So we have no internet presence whatsoever. Also, you're not allowed to bring smartphones into the meeting. If you have a smartphone, you leave them outside in the car. Because we know they don't shut those things off. They're always listening. So, you know, we don't want to invite Bill Gates to come in or Mark Zuckerberg to come in and listen to our meeting and what we're talking about. So that's another thing. No smartphones. Mm-hmm. We do have a mailing list. You kind of have to have a mailing list. So what we do is we send emails to each other, but that's it. There's no group name, there's no website, there's nothing. So we don't have a presence, and we don't talk to people about it. If we find somebody that we think would make a good member, different story. All right, we'll talk to them. For example, I recently brought in 2 people into the community. They contacted me because they heard me on one of these podcasts. And they said, "Oh, we heard that you're in Oxford County, and we live in Oxford County, and we'd really like to be a part of your community." And I said, "Okay, well, tell me a little bit about yourself." And they did. I got their names, their occupation, where they live. So, yeah, they live in Oxford County, so they could be a member. And then I had other members in the community. Turned out both of them were naturopaths. And good to have in the community because we have a medical team. We have nurses and doctors. No, we don't have doctors. Yeah, we have Chinese doctors. We have nurses, and we have first responders, and we have herbalists, and they're all part of what we call the medical team, which is in charge of making sure people, we first did emergency medicine. I used to be an instructor for St. John Ambulance here in Canada, which is a volunteer ambulance service. So I taught first aid and CPR for many years. I know it like the back of my hand. So I taught everybody in our community first aid, CPR, But we also have herbalists, and you're talking about wilderness survival. These girls are amazing. Oh my God, they're wonderful. They would, about twice a year, they would do a little a trip. So you would meet them at one of the local forests, nature trails, right? And they would walk you down the nature trail, and they will point out all the vegetation, all the plants that can be used either for food or for medicine. They know it all and how to prepare it. So it'll be walking down. Oh, you see see the one with the purple berries on it? That's good for arthritis, and it also for pain relief. Oh, you see the one over there with yellow flowers? Well, you can use that, and that gets rid of diarrhea. They know all this stuff. They know the medical properties of all these plants that grow. They grow at the end of your driveway, for crying out loud. You don't have to go deep in the woods to find some rare plants that you can use. This stuff grows wild everywhere. It's in the ditch beside the road you drive to work on. And they know how to do all that. So that's part of our medical team. Wonderful people. So, I wanted to get a couple of naturopaths into the community and, fit them into the medical team. And so we checked them out, and it came back. Oh yeah, people in the town where they live, they know them. They're very good people. They were against the medical mandates, and we got a good reputation for helping people. And so we vetted them that way. They're good doctors. Not a single word of doubt of their character. And so, we brought them into the community. So that's how that goes. You vet them. Are they suitable for your community? Also, you got to ask people, what do they bring to the table? Now, what I did is I made a questionnaire, 5 pages. Rank yourself. 1, I know nothing. 5, I'm almost an expert. And we went through all the skills that you would need to survive the end of the world. Can you build things? Can you fix an engine? Can you grow food? Do you know medical techniques? Can you look after babies? Can you, tell a good story and entertain people at a bonfire? Can you play a musical instrument and cheer people up? All those kind of questions. Rate yourself. And then it's not that you pass or fail. It's just that we get a better idea. Well, this guy brings a lot of skills to the table. Let's have him in the community. He knows how to fix engines. He works on cars. Good. What if somebody's car went down? We've got somebody who can take a look at it, and it's not going to charge you through the nose and rip you off. Wonderful. So that's part of the vetting process too, is getting them to fill out a little questionnaire. I can send you the questionnaire, Shane, after the show. I'll email it to you. It doesn't have our name on the top or anything like that. It's a generic questionnaire, and you can hand out among members. It also helps for people that, like everybody, we encourage everybody to belong to a team. So, what team do I belong to? Well, what are your skill sets? And so this will help people, you fill it out for your own benefit. So it turns out, well, it looks like, you know what? I'm really good for the security team. I know martial arts. I know firearms. I know how to build a fire. I know how to build a battery. I know how, or I might be good for the communications team. I got a ham radio. I got a ham radio license. I know how to communicate. I know the 10 codes, Well, then be part of the communications team. Now, it's not that there's a lot of work to do being part of these teams. It's just that when shit happens, who do we go to that has the expertise to handle that problem? Okay, well, we're hungry. Well, then we go to the garden team. We plant our own gardens every year, and we raise our own chickens, and we raise our own eggs, and we source food from the local farmers. So if you're hungry and they won't let you into the grocery store for the next lockdown, you go to our garden team, and they will set you up. They will provide you with the food. Or communications goes down. You want to know what happened to your cousin in North Carolina. we can reach North Carolina with our ham radios. We got a really good system in place. We can talk to people anywhere in the world. We got repeaters. We got base stations. Everybody in the community has their own little portable ham radio. We can talk to ourselves, and we can also gather information from all over the world. So you want information what's going on in North Carolina or Alaska or England? Our communications team can find out that information. That's why we have these teams.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just on that last part, that's kind of the big infrastructure project here now. I guess so. The second realm strategy goes. It's very big into like anonymizing digital technologies like cryptocurrencies, and yeah, open source technologies and things like that. So we might go. I guess there might be a little more there, but that's exactly what like one of the things is we've got with the Simple X relay communications. Relay here at the property, so anyone that connects to that, we have on homestead communication, and then I've got a couple other smaller projects. I'm not sure if you've heard of something like it's called Meshtastic, which any hobbyist radio folks might be familiar with that sort of stuff. But the idea, we've got like a local PAZNIA library here with TV shows and documentaries and books and homeschooling materials, and anyone connected to our local internet can have access to that Nextcloud server. But we're trying to make it where these things basically Wi-Fi bridges, so it can be accessible anywhere on the property. And then nothing has to leave. We've got it all internal. So I guess I got some insight there, which I guess I'd love to hear more on I guess some of the infrastructure stuff, because that is whether it's communications, energy. I know like solar and wind. There's some easier possibilities. Propane is big around here. It's not perfect. But it's a good transitionary step. But I guess any other comments you might have on infrastructure of what you guys have been looking into or implementing?
Well, we have the communications infrastructure. I'm personally looking into other alternatives for energy. We have a guy that's we have a couple of guys that are experts in solar energy. They know how to set up the solar panels and set up a big 12-volt battery reserve, and they can recharge your cell phones and your laptops and whatever you need. Recharge your rechargeable battery. I personally have a couple of small solar panels that I use purely to recharge my AA batteries, because everything I use is AA. My walkie-talkie, my ham radio, my flashlight, my headlamps. So so long as I can keep recharging those batteries, I'm good to go. How do you recharge the batteries when the grid is down? Well, I've got two small portable solar panels setups that will recharge those batteries. It's not enough to the one could probably recharge my laptop. I have another one. It's a hand crank emergency radio, but that'll recharge your cell phone. Things like that. I'd like to get a little bit bigger on that. Now, a lot of the people around here have big solar panels on the homes. Again, they're like, they're farmers, they're off-grid people. They have giant solar panels. They even have wind turbines. I've researched wind turbines too. I have a couple ideas. What I'd like to do is increase our ability for creating our own power, especially hydropower. You got a creek or a river running through your countryside. Man, that is an endless source of free power. Just drop a generator into that current, and it's not that complicated. So there are ways that we can, recreate the power structure. Not what we've got now. Obviously, it's not going to be that good or that efficient or that powerful, but it's not going to be nothing. It's going to be something. And we also have numerous generators, mostly two fuel generators, gas and propane. Also, I've got a bunch of PDF files that I recently downloaded on how to make kerosene from plastic, garbage plastic. It's basically a still. You throw all the garbage plastic into this big barrel and you heat it up, and at a certain temperature, that plastic turns into kerosene. And you can run your car on kerosene. You can run your power generator on kerosene. You can run your heater on kerosene. So the more alternative ways you have for energy. So we're already talking solar and wind power and generators, but also ways of fueling that generator, and also wood gas stoves. You can run a car on wood. They did it during World War II and World War I. You could run your farm tractor on wood. It's called a wood gasifier. And, you can run your car on a wood gas. You can run your generator on a gasifier, right? So we set it up that, we've got a generator. And then 2 or 3 times a week, we open it up. People that need anything recharged, batteries, or laptops, or even your, the big portable batteries that people use, bring them in and we'll recharge them. And we have 3 different fuels that we can use to recharge your batteries. So the more you can do to separate yourself from the structure, from the system, the freer you become, and the less dependent you are on the state, which is the whole point of these communities. We got to get away from the state, the government, the corporations. They're evil. They're out to kill us. Let's make no mistake about this. We are at war. They want to kill us. They want to kill you. They want to kill your wife. They want to kill your children. They want to kill your grandchildren. They do. They dream about it. They can't wait. And so anything short of a vigorous self-defense plan, you're not going to make it. So part of the vigorous self-defense plan is form your communities, form teams of people that have skill sets that you can rely on, that will separate you from the need to depend on the state.
Yeah, certainly. And I guess the that we've been doing a lot of looking into on the energy realm too. There's a guy not far from here who one of our good friends worked for him over in St. Louis, but his name's Sky Huddleston. He's this 31 years old now probably, but his main company source of income is called Liberated. It's a Liberated rocket heater. It's like 99.5% efficiency, using wood pellets or just using wood. And that's already out there. It's available. It's more efficient than SpaceX. He was really happy, really excited to mention that on the podcast when I had him on. But the next step, I guess one of his R&D projects is on a Tesla turbine. So you'd put the Tesla turbine onto the off-grid stove, and that same stove that you heat your house with could give you all the power.
Right.
And he's another one of his side projects. This dude's ridiculous, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with I'm not really that familiar with it, but it's called a Bork engine, and it was around back in like the 1930s, and he's come up with this new prototype. He's initially targeting the like lawnmower segments, like the small engine sort of things, but he's got bigger applications too, where if you have a parking lot worth of these things, and they're like 4 or 5. It takes like 5 minutes to take the entire thing apart, put it back together. It's a lot more simpler than the automobiles are today. But his comment was you get a parking lot of these things together, and like your community could have like the equivalent to like a small nuclear power plant worth of energy. Where it's not like or you could put one of these Bork engines in your car, and it's not like your house is going to fuel your car is going to fuel your house. Like one of the possibilities. So anyway, there's all sorts of really incredible stuff out there. But yeah, in terms of like what's like those are big those are big projects that are on the way, but we gotta know what's there now. And what you mentioned was very valuable. And then I think even propane as a transitionary step I think is great.
Me too.
So anyway, we've been going for about an hour. I guess we'll go one more question if you got time for one more question.
Absolutely.
Right on. So in terms of community building, one of the big things that's brought up a lot, and especially in the anarcho-capitalist realm, is like dispute resolution. So I guess with communities that happen anytime you get people together, there are going to be disagreements, there are going to be challenges, things like that. Are there any standards, protocols, or lessons that you've learned in terms of like keeping the peace in the community?
Sure. First of all, we don't have a membership fee. There's no monthly fee, nothing. Everything we do is free. Everything, except when you want to order through the farmers co-op. Well, you got to pay the farmers for their food. But everything else we do is free. When I put on a first aid workshop, that's free. When we got people come in that do workshops on canning and home nursing, and you name it. We constantly have people, members of our community, that are experts in different areas, and they'll come in and they'll put on a workshop. Like home canning, or canning is a very popular workshop. We have about 2 or 3 of those workshops every year, and it's all for free. There's no charge, not for the first aid workshops, not for the canning, we also have a really good, like our garden team. They're brilliant. And not only do we grow a communal garden, but the members of our garden community go to everybody else's house where they have a backyard garden, because we're out in the country. Just about everybody has a backyard garden, right? And they help them. They show them which plants to plant where and how to cultivate them and how to water them and how to harvest them. They do that all for free. So there is no money. So there's no arguments about money, no monthly fees. If we need to buy something or support somebody, we pass the hat. That's what we've done. So-and-so, they had a fire at their herb shop, and she's all by herself. She's got no food or money. We passed the hat around. We raised $1,500, $2,000. Here you go. So there's no money. The other thing is that we meet every week. If you just get together once a month, it's not enough. In order to maintain social cohesion, you got to be used to meeting them every week. Now, if you can't make a couple of meetings or anything like that, that's fine. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to, oh, you missed last Thursday's meeting. Where are you? No, that never happens. We have a meeting every week. You come to as many meetings as you can. And that way you're always in touch with people. You're always sharing ideas. And listen, it's, for me especially, it's tough. When I first joined the community, there's 80 people I don't know. And I'm still trying to remember everybody's name. But it helps a lot more when you have a weekly meeting and you get to know them and you get to know what their strengths and skill sets are. And so it helps with the cohesion. The other thing is we also do social events together at least once every 2 months. There's either like a potluck dinner, and our potluck dinners is to die for. The food that we get, tons and tons of food, all homemade, locally sourced, free range chicken and beef, and you name it. I mean, it's the best food in the world. And we have a big potluck dinner and a story time, or the kids go outside and play games. The other thing is we have homeschooling team as well. A lot of the mothers work together to homeschool their kids. Get your kids out of public education. For the love of God, do not send your kids to public school. And so the kids come and to the potluck, and we have games and prizes, and we do all that kind. So, and also, like I said, we pull out the instruments. We've got 2 members that are world-class musicians that play at the local orchestra, and I play guitar and harmonica, and we got violin. We get together, we play music, we sing songs, we have barbecues. That's another thing. We'll have a big barbecue. We have stone soup. Stone soup is where you have this big giant pot, and you stick it over the fire, and you throw everything into it. Something to throw into it. 1/4 pound of beef, some green onions, potatoes, carrots, everybody throws it, and it just cooks away, and then you've got this beautiful, at the end of a couple of hours. So social events are really important. The other thing we do probably about 4 times a year, we go to a restaurant. Now, one of our community members owns and runs a roadhouse style restaurant. Beautiful food, sources everything from the local farmers. Oh, I mean, you can't find food like that in the city. I don't care if it's a Michelin restaurant. You don't find this kind of home cooking in the city. And she's wonderful. Dinner at the Roadhouse for 2 reasons. One, it helps to support the restaurant because, look, we got to help support each other's businesses too. So, the woman that runs the herb shop, guess where we go to buy herbs? From her, not from Shoppers Drug Mart or anything like that. And the same thing, if we're going to go out for dinner, we're going to go out to Vivian's Roadhouse and have dinner there. So we're supporting her, helping her business to move along. And also, we get to meet another interaction, and it's jokes and stories. I'm a great one for stories, right? Everybody loves my stories. So I got some funny story to tell, and afterwards, and hugs. And so that's the way you meet regularly. And you plan social events together. Food is a very important way to build bonds. Sharing food with other human beings is primal. So if you want to build bonds with people, well, cook them something.
Oh yeah, no, certainly. So I guess since again, like the PAZNIA network is more of kind of a disparate thing. It seems like what you have going on, but obviously the local intentional community is you know is something that's kind of being it's coming into the picture more now, I suppose is how I'd put it. But we always we have for most of the major holidays we reappropriate them with freedom holidays. So Memorial Day is Volunteerism Day weekend, and Labor Day is Self-Defense Day or something like that.
Nice.
For most of the major holidays, we have like people can come out. Like we encourage people to come out. So there's 5 or 6 of those gatherings a year, and then we have our big yearly gathering called Vonu Fest, which usually a bigger one. But I mean, I'm right there with you. Like a lot of us, it's kind of disparate, so we rely on the digital to stay in contact. So we have we've got ghost phones that are hardware hacked by our buddy Jamin, who's in the network. He does ghost pads, so like privacy focused laptops that have the Intel management engine removed and replaced with an open source audited version. So the digital is like the physical is the most important, but it's kind of at the present moment. I guess it's probably not going to go away, but it's got to stay in contact. Across vast differences, and just do it in a way where we own the hardware, we own the software, we aren't reliant upon somewhere else, and something we can actually trust. So. This was really great. I took a lot out of this. I'm gonna enjoy listening to this when I do the very very minimal the minimal post-production work. But Stefan, I going for about an hour and 10. I suppose I'll open up to you one more time. Any other closing thoughts for the audience? And please do feel free if there's any new books or any new projects or anything you'd like to plug. Please do that.
Okay, sure. Shameless self-promotion time. The best website to get more information on what we've talked about today is called Forming Communities. One word, formingcommunities.com. And I have a couple of things on there. I have an online course on how to form communities. It's like 12 hours of video and PDF books and things like that. So you can access, I think I only charge $50 for it. So it's online course that you can take. And we cover everything. We cover everything in that course, all the different variations and things like constitutions and charters. Some of the legal stuff that we gotta know how to do that too, right? Private members associations, you might need to do that as well. So we cover everything in that course. And the other thing that is a really good deal for listeners is I have what's called my survival library, which has all of my books in PDF, plus an additional 320 books in PDF that cover everything, urban guerrilla tactics, how to shoot a pistol, how to make kerosene, how to build shelters, how to, use a radio, how to manufacture your own fuel, you name it, it's in there. Everything you would need to restart civilization from scratch is in that library. And what I recommend people do is download it to a flash drive. And so you've got all these books on a flash drive, and make sure you have like a little tablet or something. I like a tablet better than a desktop.
I'll have to get those added to the PAZNIA library.
Yeah. Like I said, it's only $49.95, $50 for all these books. It helps me out. I am, of course, unemployable, so it helps keep my work going. But it's a great deal. And what I tell people is, I got a video that goes with it. Your portable survival library. Even if I had to bug out, which is not something you want to do, but let's say worst comes to worst, you got to bug out. I can put a tablet, and you can recharge that tablet. They're only like 7.5 volts. And I have my portable solar panel that will charge 15 volts, so I'm good to go. And you got the flash drive. And then if you ever need to look something up, you know, how to do stitches, how to field surgery, how to handle disease, go to the medical section of the library. There's 15 books on medicine, you know, herbal medicine, wild vegetables, you name it. It's all on there. And you can just look it up and read it. So, and you can take it with you anywhere you go. And the other thing I do is I have 2 or 3 other flash drives, and I upload my favorite movies. So then, you know, especially if you've got kids or something like that, and you got to bug out, and now you're sitting in somebody's garage and there's no lights, and the kids are getting nervous and anxious, well, pull out that little tablet, put in a movie, let them watch movies, you know, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Certainly. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got the 4 terabyte external hard drive that is the PAZNIA library right now that can go anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, excellent idea.
Yeah, man, this has been great. I resonate with a lot of what you're doing, and a lot of the work that you've done, and I look forward to personally diving into your books more. And then maybe we can have you back on in the future.
Anytime you want me back, you know me, I'm there for you. I get people to call me up. Oh, my guest canceled today at 4:00. Can you come on? Yeah, I can come on. You know. So anytime you want me back, Shane, there's a lot of stuff we can discuss. You know, wilderness survival and martial arts and cane fighting. Yeah, I know you wanted to talk about cane fighting, but we haven't gotten to that yet. It's another thing I teach in our community. You know, it's a good weapon. Everybody needs to know how to defend themselves with a weapon. So we can, anytime you want, let me know. Send me an email, and I'll be happy to come back on, Shane. And I'm wishing you and your community the best of luck in the world. And, you know, we are the ones, like after everything hits the fan, and what happens with the psychopaths that run things, they tend to cut each other's throats in the end. They turn on each other. They kill themselves, you know. So then when the world is at a loss, it's people like us, our communities, that will rebuild America. We're the ones that are going to end up doing it. So let's get ready for that. Our future is golden. We are going to create a brand new America after all this is gone. But let's start getting ready now.
Oh yeah, certainly. That is, I guess, one other component of the PAZNIA Constitution is, you know, the PAZNIA Network is, you know, giving folks who have forsworn the use of coercion a way out, and a way forward, because there are no ways forward, and the deceptive Babylon, society of Babylon. So, there you have it. Stefan Verstappen from ChinaStrategies.com. Truly a wealth of knowledge, resources, and action. Big thanks to him for coming on the Vonu Podcast, and thank you, fellow self-liberator, for being here. If you're new to Vonu, please head on over to VonuPodcast.com. There you'll find the full podcast archives, free audiobooks, meetings of our PAZNIA Second Realm assemblies, and much more. Until next time, cheers. Rayo was right. Freedom does indeed need more full-time professionals, not collective movement preachers seeking a coterie of followers, but explorers, inventors, developers of liberated life ways. Undoubtedly, numerous folks are truly seeking a way out of the servile society, but they don't see any options outside of political crusading or apathy. Many are being emotionally and physically broken down by the 9-to-5 grind, the daily pressures of the servile society, and the recognition of how truly unfree they really are. That being the case, our task as Vonuans now becomes self-liberation and marketing in that order. Reason being, if we are ever going to see an alternative economy, sovereign free port, a new libertarian country, or whatever other grandiose strategy comes into fruition, we need to first break people free from the servile society and into a lifestyle change of their choosing. Additionally, if we are ever going to see the abolition of the state, we must do our damnedest to eliminate the market demand for it. A great way to do that is by showing individuals that there are other options, and to help them in the process as much as possible. Some entrepreneurs may even be able to monetize such a venture in the form of consulting or the development of tools or services to ease the transition from the first realm to the second realm. Rayo's first book, Vonu, The Search for Personal Freedom, was initially published in 1983. 35 plus years later, many of these strategies are just as practical now as they were then, if not more so thanks to the evolution of technology. Yet, some recommendations he and others posited are extremely outdated, destined to fail in the modern day. Vonu is based upon reality, not legality, and therefore, it will develop according to the external factors of the present time. Freedom is not free. It takes time, effort, money, an extreme amount of dedication, and a willingness to make sacrifices. It requires the willingness and ability to create, develop, and to problem solve, as we are the self-liberators of the 21st century, pioneering the path forward to a freer future. It is not for everybody, and neither is Vonu. There's no better way to end this book than with these wise, timeless words from our friend and posthumous mentor, Rayo. Quote, "A Vonuan to me is not just someone living in a particular manner. Lifestyles may change. A lifestyle which was Vonu 100 years ago may not be Vonu today. Some lifestyles Vonu today were not possible 100 years ago and may not be Vonu 50 years from now. A Vonuan is someone who places a high value on relative invulnerability to coercion, someone for whom freedom is worth a fair amount, though not infinite, of effort, inconvenience, discomfort. To a Vonuan, Vonu is not just a means to other ends, nor is it an ultimate end. Like most qualities of life and life itself, it is both. A Vonuan will choose whatever way of living offers personal sovereignty, and will change lifestyle again and again, if necessary." End quote. Your free future is closer than you think. This was an excerpt from my book, Vonu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, available in the Self-Liberation Bundle. Just visit libertyunderattack.com/SL Bundle to snag every book we offer at a huge discount. Currently 18 books. Again, libertyunderattack.com/SL Bundle is where to go to pick that up. And to view our full catalog, please visit libertyunderattack.com. LUA Publications. Share your story. Find your freedom.
We did it, folks. The inaugural broadcast of the PAZNIA Radio Network is in the books. We certainly hope you found a lot of value in the content this evening. If you did, and want to support the expansion of the PAZNIA Radio Network, please visit PAZNIA.com/shop. There, you can order PAZNIA merch, make a one-time Bitcoin or Monero donation, or you can become a stakeholder. The plan going forward is this: for the first month of broadcasts, we'll cycle through 1 week of themes. That means, next Monday, March 10th, we'll do a Music Mondays here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. Probably a Richard Dick Greaser music hour, and then an hour of selections by coordinator Rayo. Then, the next show will be March 21st, our first ever Free Energy Friday. We've got a few possibilities for this one, so we'll wait to announce until we get closer. But now you've got an idea of what to expect. If you're catching this after the fact or on a different content feed, please do consider catching us for a live show. PAZNIA.com/radio will always have the YouTube and Odysee live streams, and any other pertinent information is there too. Thanks so much for being here. Cheers, my friends. Until next time.
This is the basic law of life. And dear listeners, it is spiritual in its nature. If man failed to do everything in his power to protect his life, as a result of such neglect lost his life, then the destiny for which the soul came to earth would end there. Without life, a body or medium to function through, spiritual attainment would be impossible, ladies and gentlemen. Spirituality would then be forfeited. You see, if man's life was threatened without cause on his part, and he failed to do everything in his power to prevent death, he would then be guilty of 3 actual crimes. He would first of all permit the enemy to commit murder. Next, he would be committing suicide by failing to protect the most precious possession given to man by his Creator. And worst of all, he would end whatever his destiny might be, the purpose for which body, mind, and life had been given to him. And I believe it's to learn something. In one respect, man is forced to be a warring, not a murdering creature. And I might inject here that the Ten Commandments does not say, in its original form, thou shalt not kill. It says, ladies and gentlemen, and you can check this, if you wish, go to the original Hebrew and Greek, it says, thou shalt not murder. So in one respect, man is forced to be a warring, not a murdering creature. From his birth, the law of self-preservation forces him to be on guard against every inimical force attempting to destroy him by one means or another. He must be on the alert to prevent man, natural forces, or his own carnal desires to betray him into acts of degradation. Man is a warring creature. But his war, I tell you, his war is an honorable one. It is one of protection. First himself, so that he may protect those he is responsible for, but in doing so must not take unfair advantage of others, nor be guilty of unrighteousness. The nature of this was and is actually spiritual. It is the battle of righteousness against evil. It is a war biblically spoken of as taking place in heaven because it is waged within man's spiritual nature. He fights to fulfill destiny and to finally create heaven on earth for himself and others who follow. By the war of righteousness, wherein there is no selfishness, he attains the consciousness which makes him a man, knowing both good and evil, having chosen good to attain the promised sonship. Notice, you must choose. You must choose. Each and every one of you listening to this broadcast tonight must choose, and you must choose very quickly. You might ask, is there actually a need for some form of evil in the life of man? Was this, together with some form of fear, ordained in the beginning? And I say nothing has been ordained, but if the divine law is to be fulfilled in the life of man, then it is certainly necessary that he, according to sacred concepts, become a crusader in God's cause, and not exist as a negative, effortless, uncreative, unproductive creature, a leech, a parasite upon the rest. The first command is that he must become a man in the true sense of the term, and this implies that he must prepare himself to meet the enemy that is ever alert to destroy the best that he has created. He must meet evil as the soldier meets the enemy. Doing this in the righteousness of his conscience neutralizes fear. Many of you call and ask me, Bill, aren't you afraid? My answer has always been and always will be no. No, no, and no. For I know from where I have come and I know where I am going. I know who I am, and I know that I possess a soul. I fear the actions of no man. I fear the judgment of no man. I fear only the judgment of my God. And I know that if I am doing what is right, I need not ever fear that judgment. And therefore, I am not